Generally, you said feminism is
neutral. Here's what actually happened.
The foundation of all knowledge.
I'm really mad that
what difference does it make, right? What
Stop.
The deregulation of the industry is obviously going to cause more of that industry.
To lubricate the trust connection between people until they have enough.
Yet we could still look at biological reality in determining who's a female, even if there are.
Why don't you denounce feminism the same way you're denouncing capitalism? If you don't...
For something to be objective, it needs to be verifiable. And you can't verify...
If I make a claim as a political pundit, it is true that I definitely could be wrong.
Yeah,
you're promoting, right?
Ideologies that make that politics, right? This is my ideology.
So 2015, anyone go back and watch the footage? The first GOP debate.
Cool, Robert. Oh, dead? With a crowbar, you said?
And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. I am Sarah the Raging Tomato here, bringing to you live another Moderator Monday. I only look forward to Mondays because of this show, so I hope it brightens up your day as well. This evening, I have with me Based Tweaker, Paige, Kinetic Kel, and Admiral Gibbs. We've got three newbies to the panel this evening, and I'm really excited to see what they have to say, along with our veteran Paige, of course. Tonight's topic is masculinity is a positive force in politics. Based Tweaker, would you like to start with your opening statement, please?
Sure. First off, I'd like to thank you, Sarah, and the rest of everyone showing up, especially Gibbs, for making this a very spirited and challenging debate. The topic here is very important because it's about our policies and our politics here in the U.S. and around the world. When we talk about masculinity, the conversation often gets clouded with stereotypes, misconceptions, or extremes, such as, toxic masculinity when it comes to describing things that are very inherent to men, like strength, courage, discipline, honor, responsibility, leadership, loyalty, protectiveness, industriousness, and finally, stoicism. These are not gender-neutral ideals. They're masculine virtues. They arise from the unique nature of men, our biology, our roles, our trials. They reflect our calling, our burden, and our glory. It doesn't mean that women can't be as strong or brave, but when we talk about masculinity, we're talking about the form of these virtues for which they are expressed through the male experience, forged by testosterone, honed in the brotherhood, tested in responsibility. I assume that we're going to get into a very ethical debate on whether or not the morals are substantiated here, so I'm going to yield the rest of my time.
Fair enough. Thank you, Based. And Paige, to you.
Thanks, Sarah. So this is a pretty easy question, I think, to answer. I mean, statistically, men hold more positions in politics. They have experience leading countries dating much further back than their female counterparts. And currently, they do hold a sizable majority of world leader roles on Earth. Men in politics inspire public trust. They hold knowledge which is generally specific to their gender as to legislating male-dominated fields. And they also hold historical experience building and maintaining societal structures. I'm talking building countries, cities, and bridges on a lesser level. While female politicians certainly exist and are of benefit to society as lawmakers, they are not elected at the same rate as men. It is known that to properly legislate, a lawmaker needs to not only be well-versed in the law and procedure for instituting it, but also needs to be elected on a majority basis. At present, this does not seem to happen at the same rates for women, particularly in the country's top job, despite candidates running on prominent platforms, and recently actually losing to a certain candidate, who I'm sure my opponents will bring up. The ultimate truth here is that politicians make laws. Laws require force to maintain and enforce them. Men hold the monopoly on force, and therefore it is men who end up enforcing laws. How would a masculine benefit viewpoint not be useful in terms of designing and bringing legislation into force if the view holder knows more accurately whether or not it will be enforceable? To take the position that masculinity is not a positive force in politics is to imply to something which ought to be eradicated. And I highly doubt my opponents will be able to establish through either fact or through valid hypothesis how politics without men would function as well as they do today, particularly as there is not a data set by which we could reach a reliable conclusion on such a position. And with that, I yield my time.
Thank you, Paige. Kel, to you.
God, I gotta start by saying, bass tweaker, you sound like a lefty. Who is getting into philosophy when you're talking about what defines the masculine experience? Like, let's just get one thing clear as day right from the jump, that this debate is not going to be about masculinity, right? It's a performative version that you guys have come up with and defined, and it gets injected into politics, like our modern understanding of it. It gets weird, hostile, insecure. 9 out of 10 times, it's going to either end in a war or a podcast. Paige, it sounds like you have a fundamental misunderstanding of, or you sound like a black and white thinker, very masculine, might I add. Thinker, masculine wit thinker, I mean. Yeah, but you say, oh, it ought to be eradicated. That's the implication of it? No.
Nope. Did she freeze?
For a second.
Technology L.
That's okay. We'll give her just a second. We'll give her just a second and see if she pops back. There she is. Okay, you cut out for about the last 15 seconds. So if you want to go back to right after you were talking about Paige, and then you started talking and we lost you.
Oh, sorry. You would say that the implication is that it ought to be eradicated? No, I would say that there's several different approaches that you could take to the conversation. But so our opponents are going to try and sell you that there's like this specific pipeline vision of what masculinity is and how it affects. But exactly what you said, how I might bring up toxic masculinity, I would say there's a wide variety of ways that people and cultures that we can observe define masculinity. So since Oxford Dictionary, okay, we can all agree on that one, defines masculinity, okay, as qualities or attributes regarded as characteristics of men, which varies so much from culture to culture that we can see that's not a fixed thing. Like Viking masculinity is not the same as Roman masculinity. And when like politicians feel like they have to perform our modern understanding of like masculinity, what do we get? Okay, listen. This is what we get.
Is that Putin on a horse? But it's
yes,
he's like
performative masculinity. Oh, and also let's not talk about Andrew Tate. Look, he's like become this giant like political opponent, like voice online. When he's literally leader, rich, dominant, like always right. But he's facing multiple charges for trafficking women and abuse, which I think serves as a pretty blatant example of what can happen when like masculinity becomes a tool that you like control and exploit, rather than a responsibility to lead. It's been polluted and bastardized across our culture. Or look at the rise of strongman politics. Okay, look at Putin in Russia on the horse. Okay, maybe not on the horse, but just in general. Or you know what? They ban books. The people that like perform masculinity, they ban books. There's a bunch of examples on why the hypermasculine pipeline that you guys are presenting doesn't work. So no, we don't need more masculinity in politics. It's not a gender-specific ideology. We need more maturity. It's not like a gendered varied thing. It's about being mature or not. It's not like inherently gendered. And with that, I rest my case.
You did great.
Thank you, Kel. Gibbs, to you, sir.
Howdy, I am Admiral Gibbs. I am a streamer here out of Texas. I generally cover conservative politics and all sorts of that good jazz. However, today I've been asked to fill in and play Admiral Libs instead of Admiral Gibbs, so I'm going to give it my best shot, so bear with me. All right, as for our intros. Real masculinity isn't a problem in politics, but the pussified version of masculinity our opponents have proposed is a negative force in politics. The type of modern American Christian masculinity our opponents are arguing for has only existed since really the 1950s and has been a massive detriment to society. The 1950s generation created weak people. We can look at the 60s and 70s, and they are known across the world for being bad times in the United States. What eras are bright spots in recent memory then? The cocaine-filled stock market booms of the 80s. The 90s also embraced degeneracy with MTV everywhere. Something akin to the no rules of the Wild West occurred with the widespread introduction of the internet and a PC in every home. This brought a plethora of new opportunities, one of which was a new industry called internet porn. Internet porn started a trend that continues to this day, with the porn industry always being one of the first industries to try introducing and refining new technology. Going only slightly further back, we can see the take no shit robber barons like the Rockefellers, J.P. Morgan, and Carnegie. They didn't live by the beta cuckery that our opponents want in their neutered form of masculinity. This is masculinity in name only. Let's just look at some other famous figures from history to see if we see a trend. Ben Franklin, renowned womanizer. Thomas Jefferson, author of the Declaration of Independence and third president. The man who really began Manifest Destiny with the Louisiana Purchase, which doubled the size of the United States, was a known degenerate with many descendants of questionable origins due to his many sexcapades. Colonel William B. Travis is the man who penned the famous letter to his fellow Texans declaring victory or death, and then rallied his troops to fight Mexico to the last man. His words and sacrifice would inspire the rallying cry of Remember the Alamo, which led the Texans to the creation of their own republic at the Battle of San Jacinto. Yet he only came to Texas because of his drunken escapades and sexcapades back in the United States.
Is it possible for you to slow down? Because my head is spinning right now.
It's okay. It's okay. It's his opening statement.
Not convinced. Let me drop one more major name from world history this time. Genghis fucking Khan. This man created the largest empire the world has ever seen. It is estimated that approximately 16 million men, or roughly 0.5% of the world's male population, are direct descendants of Genghis Khan. That's a lot of sex with a lot of different women. My friends, what's more masculine than creating the world's largest empire and having 16 million men trace their genetic lineage back to you? We can look at other parts of history as well. The Vikings went from hedonistic conquerors feared everywhere to Christians who became absorbed by the peoples they had conquered. The Roman Empire existed for approximately 2,232 years. Its peak was unquestionably during its most hedonistic times, when the Colosseum hosted its bloodthirsty events and the elite and peasants alike celebrated Bacchanalia, a debaucherous alcohol and orgy-filled festival to the hedonistic god Bacchus. Arguably, the Roman Empire enters decline the minute Christianity and its idea of masculinity is widely introduced. Christianity eventually actually causes the empire to split between Catholicism and Orthodoxy, which in turn ushered in its downfall. Another place we can look to is ancient Greece, the place where our founding fathers looked to gain their knowledge on how to form the constitutional republic that is these United States. Ancient Greece is renowned for its debauchery, from the homosexual army of the sacred band of thieves to the martial Spartans and their hedonistic ways. And finally, the noble Athens, a place known for its philosophers and its temples, many of which practice orgia, especially the ones associated with Dionysus, the god of wine and madness. The ancient Greeks invented and inspired our modern government, military tactics, and even our artwork with famous tragedies, comedies, and mythology. Modern Western civilization is the product of their degeneracy. My opponents are advocating for a very neutered, narrow view of masculinity. We've seen this before. Their philosophy led to the burning bras and despair that was the 60s and 70s. It led to the helicopter parents and the participation trophy generation. I, for one, am sick of this beta cuckery that people like my opponents have dressed up as masculinity. It is ruining America. My American brothers and sisters, I advocate for a return to what masculinity really was. Being a goddamn hedonistic, conquering giga chad, not a whiny baby bat bitch who needs to find a virgin because they're not man enough to satisfy a woman who's seen another penis. I ask you, the judges and the audience, what's more masculine? The man who has to brainwash a virgin because he's a lip dick, 2-pump jump, or Genghis fucking Khan? Thank you for your time. I'm sorry I was fast. I was on a timer.
Okay, so
I won't talk about that.
Hold on, thank you.
Hey, you know what? That was a very good argument for VK. Yeah.
Hold on, gentlemen. Okay. So thank you so much for the opening statements. As a kind reminder to the audience, we're going to get to this debate. We will move into closing statements, read and respond to your kind super chats. Then, of course, your favorite part, we're going to open up into open panel dumpster fire. Ladies and gentlemen, I leave the floor open to you. And Gibbs, turn your mic up a little.
So Gibbs, I have a question. In all of your incoherent rambling, did you make one point other than to try to call people cucks and betas when actually the conservative viewpoint, the conservative viewpoint of what a traditional man is actually in virtue is eloquently defines all the things that you said were traditional men, the cuckery and all this stuff. That was actually the liberal men, the ones that wanted to control the minds and bodies of women so that they can garner their attention and favor so they could finally pleasure themselves.
Well, I was going to say you rolled your eyes super duper hard in the beginning when I pulled out Oxford and said that that's such a vague umbrella term that we need to narrow it down. How would you define masculinity? Let's start there.
I define it in my opener. You know, the virtues of masculinity are one of the most important and prominent parts of what masculinity is.
Right, but the virtues of masculinity, you can tell me the virtues of something if I say,
Okay, and again,
what is
you have
X?
you have
can
rules.
tell me X is this, that, the other. I said, no, but
Let me just ask a question. Would you argue that honesty and fair trade are virtues of your version of masculinity?
I'm sorry, can you say that again in actual words?
Yeah, okay, well, listen. Open those ears up.
I did. You were fumbling the words.
Would you say, in the virtues of your version of masculinity, like honorable trade and honesty are key components?
Key components for honest trade? Absolutely not. I mean, sometimes you actually have to deceive someone. You actually have to gain favor for your own people. Absolutely. I don't know why you try to create a monolith about men.
Okay, so that's interesting. A monolith about men. Interesting. So would you argue that men are supposed to be a protector?
Yes, absolutely.
So by deceiving people, you think this is a good way to be a protector from not being able to make their own decisions?
No, it has nothing to do with deceiving your own people. It has to do with deceiving the opponent. Let's go ahead. No, let's go ahead and go into it real deeply because you're going to go ahead and try to garner war. See, you want to garner and say that war is actually something that would create bad times for your people, right?
No, it depends.
Oh, no?
We conquered land. Yeah, like.
Wait, no. When's the last time America conquered something?
Yeah, no, but you said,
when's the last time? I mean, we should go back to that. The problem is we're not conquering shit because we've moved to this Christian, we want to be isolationist. We want to be good people. Fuck that. We need to go back to the Americans of the Wild West where we were doing manifest.
Okay, I mean, again, see, this is
your version of masculinity has pussified America worse than the liberals.
This is a classic Gib pivot, and I'm going to go ahead and bring it right back.
I mean,
it's 100% a pivot.
How is that Christianity makes people sense? I'm confused.
No. Hey, ignore the Christianity for a second.
Okay.
Ignore the Christianity. I know it's hard for you. Think
you
about what he's doing.
You still haven't told me what masculinity, like you.
So masculinity. No, virtues of masculinity are very important, and that's what I defined first.
You told me the pillars of fucking this, but I'm like, what is it?
And I was trying to
tell me the commandments in the Bible are this.
For 5 seconds so that I can give it to you. So when you talk about masculinity, the roles and expectations, as he was describing, when you talk about that you need to provide, you need to actually be able to protect people. You have the biological factors of masculinity. Okay, you have testosterone. That's actually the massive driving factor in what makes men.
Where's someone born like testosterone?
Again, we don't actually talk about the outliers. We're talking about the vast majority, and usually we talk in general constructs because at the end of the day, that's what the voting block is. There's never any one
testosterone
thing.
And fortitude, bro. What about I start fucking like? There's
you said fortitude.
What? Okay, whatever your.
Yes, resilience. That's resilience.
Resilience. I'm sorry, hard work.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're talking about knife. Not
I
don't know a lot of
answer me this question. Would you not think that it would be resilience to not need a drug or schmug, or I don't even know if that's the thing here, a drug to not actually feel the pain of something? Would you think that that's true?
Do you have to push a child?
Can you answer the question? Yeah, no, that's actually where this is going.
Yeah.
Okay, exactly. So when you actually talk about the two, the one that actually needs it more is the one with the feminine qualities and the feminine biology. There's a reason there's a difference.
It's just a nice.
No, they do. Actually, they do.
That's the beauty of modern medicine.
They overwhelmingly do. You should look at the statistics on it sometimes. Yeah.
Right. No, now that it's here, yeah, fucking. If I could have it, I'm sure women in the
no. Even if you're against it and you don't want to do it,
and you had to push it out, you would fucking pick that shit too.
Again, what I'm trying to describe for you is we're talking anecdotally here either way. But the truth of the matter is when you actually have to do it, you need to understand that even if your conviction is 100% against it, your bodily response cannot handle it. So you have to take it. You don't have a choice. It is true, almost overwhelmingly.
Hold on. So what you're arguing is every soldier that's been shot or lost an arm in the course of combat doing their biological need.
Sure.
He should have just manned up and not needed the drugs.
Is a pussy for taking morphine or having a doctor.
Oh, I didn't say anything about being. See, again, you're trying to conflate. You're conflating my argument.
Exactly.
That's not what I said.
No, they are exact. They're one.
No. You're just over talking and trying to assert something I never said. Can you demonstrate?
This is the first time.
Hey. Answer this question. Answer this question.
Hold on. Tard wrangling. Stop it. One at a time. Gibbs was going. Base, settle down a little.
Yeah, so this is what he's doing actually is somewhat bad faith right here. This is actually, he's saying I'm trying to pivot or trying to do this. What I'm actually doing is showing a one-to-one equivalency here. This is exactly what. So he just defined, men should be a protector in these senses. We got to protect our own. So that would be, by his own definition, they need to be the ones going to war. Cool, so they're the ones at war. I lose an arm, it's gone. Now, if I get something from the doctor to help me with this, just like it's the woman's duty in his own scenario to take the pain of having childbirth. Guess what? That's exactly equivalent. And so I guess what
losing
he's
an arm
saying
to a childbirth, like
hold on.
hold on.
We know for a fact that having the birth of a child is one of the most painful things you can do in existence. In fact, losing an arm, your body might.
Can you demonstrate that it's a fact?
Hold on.
No. I want you to demonstrate
done.
fact.
I'm literally almost done. We know biologically, if you lose an arm, you're likely to go into shock due to blood loss. These are things when you're not likely to go into shock from having a childbirth. So it does kind of.
What's more likely to happen in an arm situation versus pregnancy?
Just what's more likely to happen?
No.
Is
You're
that
making
someone
a lot
gets
of
shot or
assertions.
loses
You said
an arm
almost
is going
done.
to
You
need
keep
weapons.
talking.
Stop.
Because you keep
Stop.
interrupting
Hold
me.
on. Let me stop. We already talked about the interruption shit. Knock it off. Gibbs, please finish your thought, and then you can respond and ask all the fucking questions you want. Gibbs.
Yeah, so in summary, it's real simple to me, right? If a man's duty in his own real world scenario that he put forth is to go to war, and if they get damaged, and guess what? In some way they need medical treatment, and they take medicine that numbs them, this guy's saying they're pussies and they actually didn't do their job as men, and our veterans are bitches. That's what he's saying. I'm saying that women are doing their job raising, popping out the kids. They're in pain. Why shouldn't they both be getting something for it? Like, this is ridiculous. What are you arguing? How is this good for politics? This is bad.
This is audience against modern medicine, not about against women. Like, all the things you're describing are so situationally male and female. You're like, oh, well, we don't talk about the minority. We talk about the general rule.
So first off, you straw man my entire argument. I never said any of the things that you said. You conflated one thing with another. We're talking about resilience. One thing that I mentioned was that women have a lack of resilience naturally. When you talk about a claim based on what virtues exist, and you say resilience here and resilience here, you need to go ahead and take them to the extreme, right? That's what I was trying to do. What you were doing is trying to say that I was saying that men were pussies because they got shot in the arm and they needed drugs. That's not what I said. Again, when I talk about virtues, it's very important to understand that you take the virtue of each person and you have to maximize it in society. You take one side and the other. So you have women with courage and men with courage. If you take all the courage out of the men, you lose society. That's how that works. But you take all the courage out of the women, society still works. It doesn't matter if it was moral or not. It still exists. So when you talk about these individual virtues, it's important in describing them. So the ones that I talk about pertain to men exclusively and primarily. And I don't mean monolithically. I'm saying that usually in society, they're attributed to one over the other. And that's why it's more important to understand them. Because if you talk about strength in a woman, it doesn't necessarily matter the same as it does in a man. When you talk about, like you said, going to war, you call people pussies for this and that. The reality is you have to actually understand the fundamental principles of masculinity to apply to politics. You said a lot of random stuff about absolutely nothing and equated it to what I believe is masculinity. And unfortunately, you have not even tried to remotely describe masculinity in any way other than to say Andrew Tate and all these random things that are not considered masculinity. Again, there is absolutely no way that masculinity is attributed to Andrew Tate. That is not, those two things are not congruent. So your argument didn't make any sense from the beginning.
And Genghis Khan, who contributed to inbreeding on a Max basis.
Okay, all right. Okay, I see, Gibbs.
masculine?
They don't get the point. They don't get the point, Gibbs.
I don't get the point. Sure, explain, please.
Okay, I will. I'll go back to my opening statement. Since Oxford defines masculinity as qualities or attributes regarded as characteristics of men, which varies so much. Because you said, I have told you
that in the Oxford Dictionary. It says which varies so much.
No, it varies immensely, culture to culture.
Is that in the Oxford
how
Dictionary?
people
Where is your basis for that argument? Where is that?
Okay, the most blatant examples that I can think of. Okay,
Are you just appealing to common sense fallacy? What's going on right here?
No, it's not. And there's blatant examples all throughout history.
Okay, tell me them. Give me one.
Oh yeah, I mean, if I'll jump in here, there's plenty of examples.
Typical, white knighting here for Cal.
Well, I mean, first of all,
I'm relying on my debate partner.
Talking about being a bitch,
Cool, it's partners, but here's the cool thing. I mean, there's clearly one of y'all that's better at debate, and it's not the male half of y'all saying, which actually emasculates him. So I don't know how you're gonna see it talking about white knighting. This guy, literally in his opening here, there's the first thing he says after we did his opening is like, "Oh, you said a lot of words. I couldn't understand them. I spoke clearly and quickly. I'm sorry." Now back to some of these points. points. We mentioned Genghis Khan. Maybe he contributed to inbreeding. However, he made sure his genetic lineage has continued to this day. He conquered 1/3 of the world, basically, at one point, right? This is the most manly man of all time. He doesn't fit y'all's narrow view of masculinity at all. 0%. Not at all. Like, and
Andrew
so when you're
Tate
sitting here, who's talking about Andrew Tate? Maybe she said something about Andrew Tate, but focus.
Oh, yeah.
You're over here getting bamboozled. I'm sorry. Like, if you think Andrew Tate's defining masculinity today, that's cool. He's defining about his masculinity as much as you are.
Well, these pillars of masculinity that you're talking about, like,
yeah, and the
like
reason
strong,
why,
like determined, whatever the fuck, like those are definitely like coagulating with the
protectors, providers, stoic leaders. They're not ruled by their emotions. They're driven by logic and sound reasoning.
Some of those manly men in history are ruled by their emotions. Would you?
No, it doesn't matter. You're talking about the outlier. You're talking about the outlier.
No, we're not.
No, you are. Actually, factually speaking, even if you talk about Genghis Khan, let's go ahead and go into this. Talk about Genghis Khan. He's the literal outlier. It doesn't matter. It actually doesn't matter if he produced all of society. Guess what? He is an individual producing an outcome. It doesn't matter if the outcome is massive. He's an individual. He's the outlier.
Yes, I agree. Let's not get stuck on the example.
Thank you. Oh, no, I think we should get stuck on the example, actually, because it's not the outlier. If we look at history, we look at the people that are successful, the most successful people are not the outliers, like Genghis Khan. Otherwise, they would only just happen once. Instead, we see people like Genghis Khan. We see King Henry VIII. We see any of the Roman emperors, basically, except for, like, Marcus Aurelius, which there's even doubts on that. And then we're going to sit here and go further into all these people. We can look at Plato. We can look at all these Greek philosophers. We can look at our American history. We can look, like I said, Ben Franklin, Thomas Jefferson. All these founding fathers had these kind of traits where they did the things that I described. You sat here and you said it's the outlier. I have given specific examples of proof, all the way from American history, world history, Texas history. You're sitting here talking about common sense fallacy when you're actually appealing to common sense fallacy, saying it's an outlier, and you don't give one specific example. Alexander the Great, how about we mention him? He had tons of dalliances all the time. He's basically been the upheld that standard of masculinity for years and years. But hey, that doesn't work for you because he might have been gay. So what is your point here whenever you don't actually have one?
My point here is that you haven't demonstrated that any of these were bad.
You still can't.
I already have. I mentioned specific times.
No. Name how.
Well,
why and how.
Sure, I will. The 50s were this golden era.
No. Take one example. Take one example.
Listen, follow along. You can't ask. You can't ask for an example, and then I get it to you.
Stop. Give the example, Gibb.
Yeah, so I mean, just in my opening, once again, my very first example was in the 50s, right? Do you have this golden era of masculinity that you were describing? What did that lead to? Well, the 60s and 70s were awful. Just utterly awful. And that was because the 40s and 50s generation was the one that doing it. And this is the golden era, the greatest generation, the one that came back, the ones that made the babies, right? This is the era that y'all talk about with the nuclear family. And we can look directly at the generations preceding, 60s and 70s, abstract failures in American history, some of the worst times in American history. When did we get back to the good stuff? When we had the 80s happen, with the cocaine-induced 80s and the stock market binge. It's when we went away from the traditional masculinity that you're describing, which isn't really traditional. The
you think they spoke faster back then than you're speaking right now?
I mean, listen, I'm sorry that you. I
don't understand. I don't understand one thing, and I need you to clarify it for me. And where in this,
just one? Are you sure?
That you actually defined what bad is, or in any sense of the word, why it was bad. I don't want you to give an example of bad. I want you to tell me
that's dumb.
How and why. And it might be dumb to you, but you have demonstrated. No. I'm asking Gibbs. I'm asking the man. Thank you. Please give me an example of how and why it's bad.
Okay. Would you argue that dodging the draft in massive numbers and shirking your duty to society, economic crashes, those are good things?
Why is that bad?
Why is that bad?
I'm asking you. You keep trying to deflect the question. I'm asking you. Why is it bad?
I would argue that, yes, an economic crash is bad, and people dodge. Well, I'm going to tell you that if you will give me 1 second here. If dodging the draft is bad, whenever we have people do it en masse in the Vietnam War, that means that people don't believe in their government. They're not willing to die for their government. They're shirking their duty as a man, and they're doing it because this traditional masculinity that you're describing has failed and has shown us a bad force in politics.
Do you know what morality is?
The economic crash, that's bad because guess what? People die. People die because they lose their livelihoods. Families suffer. Children suffer.
Why is dying bad? Why is dying bad?
Like, but because that's
what would you define as good?
It's bad because it's
What's
bad.
the objective
Asking
good?
you.
We're
Why
talking
is
about
it bad?
politics.
Are you really asking why
Argument
is
is
dying bad?
ridiculous.
Okay,
Why is
children.
I dying bad?
Listen, children.
I guess the
children,
genocide's not bad
children. Hold on. Stop. You are all jumping in. Nobody's waiting for the punchline. We're presuming the punchline. Let's everybody take a nice deep little breath here, okay? And just go one at a time. Gibbs, I'm going to hand it back, but before I do, I want you to turn your mic up some more because for some reason you are still coming in low and I don't want to mess. I tried to play with it on my end, but then it cut you out for a second and I didn't want to do that.
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, we'll try and do it in the speakers.
Way
Yeah, okay,
better.
cool. Okay, fantastic. Yeah, I don't know why I wouldn't pick it up. Yeah, so I mean, it's real simple. This guy literally just asked, why is dying bad? Well, I guess the Holocaust wasn't bad if that's his definition. I guess the genocide in Sudan wasn't bad. I guess any genocide in history isn't bad. Because why is dying bad? Oh, I guess COVID. Hey, when people die from COVID, I'm not really even a COVID guy. Like, hey, but guess what? Those people dying was bad. Smallpox epidemics, not bad. All these things. Anytime people die, it's just not bad because why? Why is dying bad? Like, that's so stupid. Like, come on.
So it's basically simple. It's actually simple. It's actually simple. When I make an internal critique, because I'm trying to figure out exactly what you're trying to say. I don't understand your definition of something. I don't understand where you're coming from. So what you're not getting here, stop. What you're not understanding is I'm asking for you to tell me why it's bad. I don't need you to give examples of people dying and this and that. That doesn't tell me why bad. Tell me why bad.
Let me jump in.
Go ahead.
Listen, so if we're talking about in context of politics, right? Is masculinity a good or bad thing in politics? What would you say?
No, that's not the question that's being asked here. Right now, the actual answer to my question needs to be is why is dying bad? Why is them dying bad?
What would be a good thing for
you can't beg the question. Answer my question. Why is it
dead, bro?
bad?
Because you can't do anything after someone's gone. Like, what the hell is that question, dude? Like, obviously you can't fucking do anything after someone's dead. There's no objectives after someone's dead. I would say the only objective that some people have is just keep your people alive. Like, fuck their quality of life, but just keep them alive.
So where are you grounding this at? That's what I don't understand. Where are you getting the fact that it's bad from? What is bad? Is it just because of harm? Is it just because it's hurting someone?
What is politics?
I'm asking you a simple question and you won't answer.
Okay,
you're pivoting.
Stop.
I want you to
Stop. Based, calm down a little bit, okay? You're very. I love how excited you are, but it's audio wise, it's very strenuous on my poor little ears.
I could run it.
Ask the question. Based.
Again, I need to understand why you're saying it's bad. You're not giving me anything as to why. You're asserting that it's bad because this is bad. You're asserting because that's bad. I'm saying why bad?
Okay, I will answer that. It's real simple. Actually, Cal kind of hit the nail on the head. What is the context of this conversation? The context is masculinity is a positive force in politics, right? Well, what is politics? Politics is basically the study of the polis, right? The polis, right? So here we go. Politics comes in. We have the people acting, right? So if the government's one job is to protect its people and those people are fucking dying, that's bad. It's failing. I don't know how much more simple you can make it when you have the government's one job is to provide for its people in some capacity to where at least a portion is happy. And when that large portion of those people are dying or are economically disadvantaged or avoiding the draft and the government's failing, that's all bad things. And that's bad. That's a failure.
So let me ask a question calmly. Let me ask a question calmly. Let me ask a question calmly so that you understand what I'm trying to ask you here. Okay, again, you're giving examples of something, right? Okay. Me personally, I would say something because of X thing. I would say I think it's bad because of this. That's the grounding of my morality. I know you have not. You have not grounded your morality in other than. Is it because you think it's bad? No. Is it because you think it's bad? No. Why is it bad doesn't tell me because it's been repeated in history. That doesn't actually tell me anything.
Well, that's pretty much
no. You haven't told me why bad.
Can I ask your debate partner? Do you understand why he thinks it's bad? Because I bet your debate partner does.
I bet not.
Paige, do you get that you can't protect people that are good?
Look, can I give him the look?
I'll make it very clear for you. I need you to answer for me why you, Gibbs, the person I'm trying to actually assess from your worldview. No, he did not. Okay, again, I would say if it's from my worldview, I would say that it has a higher entity involved. I'm asking you, from your worldview, why exactly you think it's bad. You're just giving examples of what you think is bad.
Here's the thing is we're the negative, right? We don't have to sit here and affirm the definition of whatever. You have to affirm why your definition.
Yeah, bad because it's bad because it's bad.
You can say all these things you want. I've given real world examples and
no, you haven't refuted it.
Hold on. I have. I've given real world examples. I've named specific times in history. I've named specific consequences. I've aimed out what the point of politics is in general, right? It's like the policies. We've named out what the government's job is. I've walked you through a step-by-step analysis of this, right? Now, I've given why that's bad. Now, you haven't chosen to accept that answer. However, the point of this debate is to talk about masculinity in the context of politics being a positive force. And if it's failing and it's causing the population to have these bad outcomes, then it's not a positive influence. It's really that simple.
Okay, actually, no. Because if I
can I say something? That would be great. If you could evaluate that statement on an objective moral basis, from at best, what I can surmise from your conversations that you are utilitarian. Utilitarianism is a subjective moral evaluation. Everybody has their own value as to what they think provides utility to.
Better finish.
Ergo, it's problematic.
Okay, so
I'm
gonna make this very clear.
No. I will simplify it. Very simple.
She was next.
Dude, very simple, guys. Left, right, regardless, we can all agree that you can't do shit for anyone that's dead. So I would say dead is the only...
Utilitarian.
What? That's not utilitarian. Regardless, we can all agree that people dying bad. Oh, so you think it's a good...
No,
so
we
you're
can't
arguing
all
that
agree. We can't all agree.
Okay,
There's no unanimous consensus. I'm asking why you believe.
In what cases would large pieces
I'm asking you why...
Again, I've asked this over and over, and I'm waiting for an answer.
Up, Beast. Chill out.
I'm asking you why it's good. We've told you 4 times. We told you 4 times why it's bad. I'll explain it very simply. You can't... If the objective of politics is to improve people's quality of life, our structure of society... You can't do anything for a non-existent thing. So you're arguing on a negative. It's like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, are you guys /wish?
Can I talk now?
Oh, yes, please. Sorry, we've all been so talking over you, bro.
Actually, from the very beginning that happened. Actually did very, very fast. Because at the end of the day, all I've asked is one simple question, and you guys haven't been able to demonstrate it. So I'm going to go ahead and explain to you why it's important that you answer this question. Because... when you sit here and say that Genghis Khan did X thing, he went and he impregnated everybody, he created all of society. Actually, that's more good by your own utilitarian view that you've demonstrated here. So you actually haven't demonstrated bad. You haven't demonstrated any bad by masculinity. That's masculinity. That's genuinely my definition of masculinity. You've actually supported my argument unless you can refute and explain to me what you mean by bad.
I will acknowledge what Gibbs said a little bit ago, that you have the affirmative. They have the negative. It is their job to poke and prod at what you're saying. They don't have to give you shit. You have to explain and define and defend. It is their job to stab into what you're saying. So
I have, and they've made
that out there.
Yeah, I agree. They've made a bunch of assertions. They've made a bunch of assertions without backing up the claim and saying that they're bad. That's what I'm explaining here. So unfortunately, they won't let me get into what they believe. So at the end of the day, all they're doing is asserting it's bad.
They don't. Hold on.
That's fine. We've already proven that.
Hold on. They don't have to. It's not your job to get into what their claim is. It's their job to get into your claim. So it's their job to ask you what bad is. It's their job to make you give all the terms. It's their job to get you to elaborate and defend and back everything up. It doesn't work the other way around. If this was a yes or no question, then it would be a little bit different. Not to say that they don't have a claim necessarily.
So to be fair, Sarah, I've done this a long time outside of the internet space, and what happened is we reversed the onus on them, and then they couldn't actually finish the conversation. So they tried to deflect, and they tried to defend themselves, and they couldn't. So at the end of the day, they never refuted anything they said. They made a bunch of assertions. That's where I was coming from.
No, I answered every question. You asked us to define masculinity. We gave you 3 different definitions. We explained
you gave me that.
I did not.
You guys still have not explained. We've asked for a definition of masculinity from the jump and why it's a good force in politics. And you said it's pillars of like fortitude and resilience. It's like you're so vague. You sound like
a combination of things.
if you it's like it's vague, it's nuanced. No, you're taking the affirmative. Like you have no stance, you have no position. It's this vague concept. Masculinity is like whatever we want it to be. It's like, how is it positive in politics? Like,
how can we measure what's positive or negative if we don't know your objective morality? Like, what's your framework? I still don't.
You can't explain my objective morality. That's so vague. We explained to you why we like.
How do you decide what's right and wrong in society? You tell me.
If it's a net good for the people, if it benefits the people, what that means is very complicated because that's why there's left and right. But all I'm saying is we don't have to agree on left or right. If people are dead, we can't do either of it. So if we can't improve anyone's quality of life,
I would also like to point out that we also provided a definition of masculinity, and then I provided alternate definitions of masculinity and alternate examples of different forms of masculinity in history, and then compared it to whatever y'all gave us, which was, I would say, maybe not a definition, right? But I guess it was some vague framework of a concept of a plan, really. But we were sitting here, y'all mentioned picking out presidents. I mean, if I was going to pick out Donald Trump and say he's a thing of masculinity, he's also not traditionally masculine in the way you describe it. This guy's a womanizer. This guy is based as fuck. He went and paid a porn star and got away with it. That's fucking Giga Chad. And you're going to sit here and go, oh, stoicism, oh, these other things. And that's something you actually already
you guys
said.
want to talk about that?
Well, I mean, I'm just using the example. Whenever you're going to sit here and say stoicism, then or lift up Trump as an example, that's a point for me because I'm the one advocating for hedonism here. I'm advocating there's all sorts of different forms of masculinity, and I'm advocating that y'all are pushing forth a false form of masculinity that's actually a net negative with specific historical examples, which you have not refuted. In fact, you basically hand waved and said, "Okay, Gibbs is right because we don't like that, so we're just going to say what's bad. Oh, people dying. Why is that bad? Well, I mean, it's pretty simple. Dying bad.
And Paige, in your opening too, you said that men in politics inherently creates trust. Bro, Epstein, all this stuff going on right now. Okay, keep going, Gibbs. That's all.
So I need you to understand something very clear. Okay, you've actually went in two directions here. You tried to say Genghis Khan good, Genghis Khan bad. You tried to do two things. Gibbs did a complete dance. He's actually been doing this the entire time. Here's the best part about all of this. You've demonstrated that all masculinity is actually positive. You've demonstrated our point for us. The best part is you just now said masculinity. You messed up. Unfortunately for you, you shouldn't have said it was good. You shouldn't have said these people were good and then the pussies were bad. Actually, the exact masculine traits that I demonstrated in my opener are exactly true here. So what I'm asking for you is, how exactly are these virtues? Stoicism, protectiveness, loyalty, leadership. How are any of these traits not advantageous in masculinity and the roles and expectations of men to procreate society, defend society, and actually create the next generation? Okay, no. The biological factors, like I described before in my definition, that allow them to be strong. Okay, at the end of the day, all you've done is defend our point. You haven't refuted it. You tried to give examples of where what you believe is masculinity is bad, but you've never told us why those examples were bad. So you've told us examples of great leaders throughout history that have done amazing and impressive things that women could never have done. So without masculinity, based on what metric?
Based on what metric?
Masculinity.
I'm like, okay, masculinity, we're define that. You're just using adjectives to throw out another adjective. I said, what is cold? You said, well, it has qualities of being chill and frigid.
No, that's not at all.
That's exactly what you did. I'm like, okay,
no, I didn't use an adjective to describe. What do you mean?
I'm like, how is this car? You're like, well, it has a.
You described it the same exact way. You described it abstractly because it's a concept. It's not a physical thing.
No, I would say that in the way that our society has modernized it, and what you're describing as masculinity, some vague concept.
I'm talking about your definition versus my definition. They're synonymous in the sense that they're both abstract.
No, I gave the Oxford definition, and I said, "Well, let's start there. Give your definition because I literally was like, this
idea is abstract. Very applicable to real life, but it's abstract.
No, let me finish, dude. You let literally you don't let anyone finish.
Doing it too.
Okay, well, it's always point the mirror up. Why don't you just take some accountability and we all just.
Why don't you take accountability for your definition being shit?
Dude, no. I said Oxford defines it as this. It varies so much culture to culture that I need you guys to define what it is so that we can all be on the same page. And you are like, there's pillars of fortitude and
masculinity is biological. It's not society to society. Masculinity is masculinity.
That's interesting. That's interesting you say that, because that's not true either. Because
and that's a pivot.
When I go through this, Kel read the actual Oxford definition. That in and of itself is not abstract. That's the opposite of abstract. That's the literal definition. Secondly, what I followed up with in my opening, which I guess was hard for you to understand because I read fast and speak clearly, is real simple. There's multiple different forms of masculinity that have arose throughout history in different cultures. We can look at like Papua New Guinea. Would you say that masculinity in Papua New Guinea is the same as masculinity as ancient Rome? No, they fucking eat cannibal shit. So that means, guess what? That it's not biological, it's societal. So therefore, you're wrong on even the most basic fundamental level.
Because the fundamental level is the same. The same traits that actually and the same virtues are upheld. They're just upheld differently based on morals. And you wouldn't make a moral claim because you were afraid to. I've tried to over and over. No, you haven't. You've said that they're good or bad because they're bad. You've been circular the entire time with your morals. You've never laid a framework. All you've done is show me that masculinity is positive. Yeah, you've never shown me a negative. You've never shown me a bad. You've never explained what you mean by bad.
I literally laid out an example that addressed you directly in my opening. Once again, you said loyalty and loyalship or whatever loyalship is. I don't know what that is. That was a direct quote from you. And it's crazy. I mentioned leadership, cool, yeah, but you said loyalship. And so loyalty. I hate to be that guy. But long story, loyalty, that's great. Because then I mentioned the robber barons. The History Channel literally did a series called The Men Who Built America over specifically the robber barons. These men weren't loyal to nothing. The American spirit is not loyal. Literally, we have a term called Indian giving because of what we did to the Native Americans. We said we're going to do one thing and we did another and we manifest destiny to their shit. Guess what? That's not loyalty. That fam, like you're literally just backtracking and flip-flopping.
No, I've never done that. Never had that. No, see, you just now try to say a bunch of words that meant nothing. At the end of the day, stop. You've tried to go back to the topic 10 times. You've went 10 times back to the topic, so let me go ahead and revert to it. Okay, masculinity is a positive force in politics. So what you've done is demonstrate infinite actual positives. You haven't demonstrated nearly enough negatives. At the end of the day, the way that I see this is that you claim they're negatives, but they're positive.
Why is it positive? Explain it to us. And then
because they exhibit the traits and you're actually defending the traits.
No, you say, wait, that makes no sense. You can't say that masculinity is a positive force in politics because typically sorry.
That's okay. I was just giving examples. You already quoted a lot of them. Like you talked about the founding fathers and how they built America and how like without them, America wouldn't exist today. And I don't remember a single woman mentioned in that instance.
I could do that next. That's a whole other line of thought.
No, just saying there's a negative involved. Just saying there's a negative involved doesn't disprove that there's a positive. We prove the positive.
Sorry, let me go real quick.
Yeah. I'll let you go now. You're welcome.
Thank you. Dude, I literally was like letting your partner finish before I spoke. I'm like, but we're saying there's a million examples. If it leads to, I said, why is masculinity a positive force in politics? And you said, because of all the characteristics of being masculine. But that's the same answer of what is masculinity. So it can't be what is a positive force in politics and what is the definition of this? And you have the same answer for both. Well, it's the pillars, it's the characteristics. It's like, what is the thing, though?
I've demonstrated multiple times how he used all these examples that simplify our definition and prove the positive. Because again, they created civilizations, they created population.
But that's fine. Men created civilizations does not define.
I asked to go into morality, and you refused. You just
no. But if I ask you what is masculinity, and you say, "Well, men built societies,"
that's not what I said. Now you're strawmanning me.
No, you literally just did right now.
No. You never. When you asked me to define it, I defined it, and you didn't like my definition.
I would like to. Sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Paige. Go ahead.
Yeah, I would like to hear, since we're kind of going in circles. Sorry, Sarah, did you say something or did somebody?
No, we just need a definition. Gibbs just disappeared. I don't know where he went.
He probably went to the bathroom, right? Something I'm
No, he's not on. He's not on screen. There we go. He's coming back in.
But we still need a definition. We're getting lost in the weeds. It's like you guys are pivoting away from the fact that you can't answer.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, there's no definition. You're saying you're still saying the pillars of the thing.
Go ahead, Paige.
It's a combination of factors which make somebody masculine. Yes, and I framed them out. I've said stoicism, leadership, protectors, providers. Generally, they're good with their hands. They're more muscular. They're more biologically fit to perform more laborious duties.
You're talking about men, not masculinity.
Masculinity.
You said they're more muscly. Like that doesn't.
Generally, yes. Being muscly would be a masculine trait. Generally, if a woman gets like severely jacked, generally dudes at the gym will be like, "Oh, she looks a bit masculine," like she's lifting a bit too much. Some women like that.
Who says that?
I've heard it Anyway,
that once again, this isn't a factual statement. This is just like
okay.
a
So can I get
subjective
back
analysis.
No, it's actually pretty common.
So can I get back to my question because your partner was the one who threw me off.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Thank you. I said something in my opening statement that I'd like both of you to address, and nobody's addressed it yet. I said that statistically, because men are the predominant labor force in fields such as the military, infrastructure building, that they would have more knowledge and therefore they would make better lawmakers on these aspects of society, which I think you're going to admit are pretty fundamental to the continuation of it. So how would you rebut that point?
Men have the experience in these industries. I mean, I would say that's not true anymore. I would say that maybe previously it was. I mean, I'm sitting here seeing this kind of this argument that you're making, and once again, let's just use the example you gave, and then I'm going to dive into this one that you asked for. First, you said in the gym, men find these girls more muscly, and they say they're masculine. Sure, some people may say that, and other people are going to go, "Damn, that girl's hot as fuck. She's thick as fuck, boy." And I'm going to hear just about equal number, if not more. So that would make her more feminine in that regard because she's now more desired by a larger number of men. I'll take a muscly girl over a fat girl any day. And guess what? I think most men would. This is just a ridiculous argument with no basis in reality. I'm sorry. The girl with 2% body fat and abs that can squat 350 is way harder than the liberal that's got purple hair and 400 pounds. I think we'll both agree with that. Now, furthermore, back to the real world scenarios, we're going to sit here and go, hey, we got these people, these men that are in these industries. Women make up a significant portion of the workforce. I've heard men that are experts at laying concrete say the stupidest shit in the world. Guess what? Because they're not educated to be our leaders in fields like, I don't know, politics. Just because you have expertise in construction doesn't mean you're qualified to design and build a government or enact laws. No, I would rather have people like you, a lawyer who's actually sat here and went to law school and got, not a lawyer, whatever, paralegal, someone that's got expertise in the legal framework, and that's a mental thing. You're going to sit here and want people that are creative. Women are creative. They have expertise in the proper fields, which are social fields. That's why they go into fields of study like anthropology. You're just wrong on these subjects here when you're saying, oh, these things are great. Yeah, men can build America. I can also go hire 50 illegals to go build my new driveway. Should they be in Congress?
They're men. They're all men. They're all men.
Are they
educated? They're all men.
Who's more educated? The 50 women or the 50 illegals?
It's not about education. Education actually doesn't build society. Education has been to the detriment of society.
Yeah, they're all men because they're all illegal aliens that are working to build a driveway. That's a terrible point
Exactly. So
I've got some stats. Let me just calm down. I've got some stats, okay?
When you want society to exist, it has to actually exist.
Go ahead, Paige. Go ahead, Paige.
Okay. So right now it's about, I think, 11.1% in 2022. It's 11.5 in 2023 for women in construction. In 2016 is around 9. Not a great amount of increase there. In terms of like the police system, I'm looking at the NYPD. It's about 19%. It's only increased about 3% since 2004. Talking military across all divisions. I'm talking Army, Navy, Space Force, Marine Corps total. I'm not even talking about like if they specifically hold a frontline role or a secretarial role or an admin or nursing role. We're looking at about a global average of about 20.1%. And this is as effective as 2023. Now that's a pretty low amount. And like you can argue right now, DEI, promotion of women, all of that is on the highest it's ever been. They even changed certain combat requirements for women, to my knowledge. So we're not really seeing that. So yeah, maybe they can do the roles. Maybe they are able to do the roles more than they are in the past, but they aren't. Why is that?
So
why are
they? You're saying, okay, men are more blue collar workers. Men are more blue collar workers, so they are a better force in politics. Like
they're stronger in their leaders. They actually create. They actually do all these things.
They're more involved in the workforce.
No. All of these things that you're actually defining and explaining are men. That's what they do. That's what we do.
Right. Well, so you're saying, it's not like they're stretched too thin. Why would that make them better in politics? Wait.
What do you mean? We create society. We build society. We defend society.
Why wouldn't
we create policies for society? That just makes sense.
Why would that make you better for society?
You do realize that you guys referenced the 50s for a very long time.
Somebody actually make a fucking argument, please, instead of just spitting at each other.
Do you live in a condo, Cal? Where do you live?
I live in a house.
You live in a house. Who built the house, do you think?
Me, from the ground up, after the fire.
You built it? Yeah. Oh, yeah, right. That's a crock of poop.
Oh, it's almost like the exceptions are everywhere.
When your toilet breaks down, who comes and fixes the toilet?
Me.
You fix the toilet.
Okay.
You have a severe like septic overflow. You're gonna go and like you're gonna take out the main line.
I
like
only hire
snake.
women businesses.
You don't even have to do the meme argument because I can actually give you the
can't
meme
with
right
this.
now.
Like,
Right
really,
now,
you
my
can't.
my aunts and uncles on my ranch. My aunts are the ones doing the physical labor right now because all
But
the
it
other
is
ones
the
are doing,
exception.
they're building. Hold on.
family.
So if we're gonna use anecdotes, let's fucking use anecdotes. Women have been known to do all these things. Rosie the Riveter, that's a major thing.
What's
She
the
went in-
percentage?
Hold on, Rosie the Riveter, even from the era where you're talking about, she took over masculine roles according to you and was able to do them just as well. Women in social fields are just as good as men. In fact, let's argue about intelligence agencies.
No.
I want to bring up militaries here. What have you ever tried to cheat on a Latina? They're going to find out about it. You know why? Maybe we should have more women looking up
Out
this
of
kind of
left
shit
field
and
with
whatever.
that.
I'm just saying the point is that I'm making. They're going to find out. Women are just as qualified to find these things out, and are in some ways better. I'm not going to hire 15 construction workers to write my constitution. I'm going to hire 15 political scientists. And guess what?
Men.
Women are just as qualified to be a political scientist than a fucking
Can
construction
you demonstrate that? Can you demonstrate that claim?
Yeah, I mean, sure. We can look at
Demonstrate that they're qualified. No, demonstrate that they're most qualified. Demonstrate. You said just as qualified.
Just because people are the majority, you guys are arguing.
you made an assertion because
Yeah,
again, the
well,
percentages are
because
not in
he's
your
he's
favor.
pulling up stats right now, so I'm just saying, well, he's pulling up stats.
No. It's not about pulling stats. You're making an assertion
not
that's
about
actually
pulling stats.
falsifiable.
Okay, it's falsifiable. Okay, would you say that somebody with a degree and expertise in the field is going to be more qualified than someone that's got cursory street level knowledge of designing something as intricate as the government?
No, that's the point.
There's two
men
people.
are
That's the
overwhelmingly,
point. Is the
men
point.
overwhelmingly
I do
represent
something
you.
that is knowledge related.
Because
Okay.
just because men are the
Few things
majority,
that make you a good litigator.
just because men are
across the board, please, if I don't mind. Were we all present during that conversation backstage where I said interrupting is like a really big fucking pet peeve of mine? And I think I said it a lot nicer back there, but now I'm kind of tired of being nice because I've asked all four of you. I think this is probably like the 6th time I've asked you at this point to just be mindful and to not interrupt. It's a more productive conversation if you actually let people talk and get to the period at the end of the sentence. So if you want me to go into full ass mom mode, the nagging mom that my kids don't like to hear from, I can do that. I'm happy to do it. I'll set a fucking timer or I'll just sit here and we can do, pass the talking stick. I'm happy to play these fucking games, but all four of you need to be grown ass adults because I wouldn't let any of you lead shit. So, all right, who would like to start? Go ahead, Kel.
I apologize. I am still learning that again, and I definitely, I apologize. All I was gonna say is that I kind of like moots the point in an argument because you guys are saying, okay, sorry, I lost my train of thought. Sorry. Go ahead. I had an argument. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. Whoever wants to go next.
So again, men dictate
Oh,
things
yeah,
in
sorry,
society.
I remember.
Men dictate things in society. That's how it's been throughout the past. That's how it's going to be out throughout the future and the present. Now, when you talk about men, you need to understand that feminism still includes those men. So you talk about these weak men that are currently running society. It doesn't matter which way you go with the enforcement arm. It is legitimately always men. Women don't collectivize. They cannot collectivize and actually overthrow a society. I would challenge Gibbs right now to ask him to demonstrate a point in time where women were the majority in society and controlled it over men.
And I would say that
it was
exactly
to
pertaining to my
Sure.
No, I know, but I
That was to Gibbs, Kel. That was to Gibbs.
Okay.
It exactly
They are a
pertains,
team.
like it exactly pertains to that. And
Stop again. I'm going to pass it back to you, Kel. But listen, you guys, you are a team of two. Okay, you can say this is to Gibbs, this is to this. Like, that doesn't matter. Gibbs can give his calling over to Kel, and Kel can give her calling to Gibbs. That's why they're a fucking team. That's why you and Paige are a team, where one, doesn't maybe have the answer, or one doesn't want to answer, or one's not sure. The other one can pick up the steam. Based. Stop trying to lead this entire fucking conversation, or else I'm going to backstage your ass for the next 10 minutes because I'm getting sick of it. Kel, please continue.
Thank you. Sorry. I was gonna say if some just because like some things the majority, like does that mean you're saying that it's inherently good because men have always ran societies and there's like several, even though I'm sure Gibbs is gonna happen right now with some pertinent examples of women, right?
Yeah, I mean, I got plenty of those pertinent examples. Listen, we wouldn't even have America today as we know it without Queen Isabella of Spain. She was basically the de facto power in her thing. Now, we can argue about who's the majority. Fine, let's look at a different society. How about Queen Elizabeth I with the Elizabethan era? It's one of the golden eras in English history. When we're talking about the majority, when we're talking about the king or the queen, and the queen being the sole person on the throne, guess what? That's a woman majority. She's in power. She's in control. We can look at other societies like the Amazonians. I can point to matriarchal societies in South America and in the Polynesian Islands and whatnot. There's lots of examples throughout our history where women take leadership roles. We can even further go. Some of the Sumerian societies, they have women in leadership roles. They maybe not be the majority, but they were contributing equal members of society. There's plenty of examples of warriors of the history of women. It goes on and on and on. This is like a not historically factually based argument. It's something that people on this side like to throw out and pretend is real. But whenever we face down the facts, there's examples, like I said, the Queen Elizabeth, who just totally destroy that narrative.
No, it actually doesn't destroy any narrative because, again, she uses men for force. The entire point is the implication of force. You're not understanding that I'm sitting here talking about men create, build, and destroy, and protect and defend everything. That's actually how it's always worked historically. You use Queen Elizabeth, then it actually defends my point because she used men to do it. She didn't do it on her own. She didn't collectivize women and make women do it. The entire point of force doctrine is to explain that men do everything and create all the force. Now, all of it.
If something is some way and has always been that way, does that mean it's good? Does that make it an inherent?
No, I've asked you guys.
No. You talk about pivoting away from answering yes or no. If something has always been some way, and you're saying
there's no monolith. Absolutely not.
But there's also no way to show on a statistical basis that it should change. There's no statistics for that.
But you guys are arguing that it's a good thing for politics.
Let me finish, please. There's been opportunities to have women get to those roles, and they just haven't. Like, there's been 2 recent opportunities for 2 women. I'm going to talk about Hillary Clinton specifically and Kamala Harris, who failed against a man that the left says that he's a felon and that he's unfit to be president, and yet he won against both of them. I mean,
why is it an inherent good though? If that's the way things have always been.
Who said it was inherently good?
Nobody said it was
you guys did.
Good.
You said that. Oh, politics is good. I literally asked you.
I didn't say inherently. No one said inherently.
Okay, I did. I'm sorry, I misspoke.
Yeah, thank you.
I asked you like the prompt. I said, why is it a net negative or positive in politics? And you said, well, because men have always done everything. And I'm saying, no, just because things have always been this way does not qualify as good. So what makes it good? You still haven't answered my question.
Yeah, Kel, I told you. I said that they statistically hold more roles in these like hugely like significant and like incredibly important areas of society. There's a difference between having knowledge and being able to apply that knowledge. This is what I was trying to get at earlier with my own profession, right?
What makes that good though?
Let me finish. There's like career politicians that people hate for this very reason. They don't have any actual real world experience. In fact, this is one of the things a lot of people valued Trump on, is that he had business experience. He had experience leading a company. So they were like, okay, maybe he can lead a country, right, with that knowledge. There's 2 components here. It's not just about, educating someone with a fancy master's degree. They also need to be able to perform in the society which they are trained for.
So how is it a net positive that men are in those positions? Like, it still doesn't answer the question.
Because they have real world experience, generally.
So that means they haven't had access to it then.
Well,
what if
it's what they're doing right here, Kel, is something really interesting. They're arguing 2 contrary things at the same time, and this is kind of interesting. First, your partner Tweaker argued, "Oh, these weak men, all this." He said his exact words were, "These all fall under feminism and feminist traits. They've taken these on, and it's feminism fault." Well, that's interesting because the founding fathers, the people who created this great country, I brought up the ancient Greeks, and some of those people were philosophers. Many of those are philosophers. They have absolutely zero real world experience, and they designed the system of government that we based our system of government on. Many of these people in that case. So what you're telling me is, somehow the least feminine and the guys that your partner would argue would be feminists by today's definition, because they have no real world experience, or somehow actually contributing to this thing, and they're going to be doing this. It's just ridiculous.
First off, you actually strawman my argument. That was me actually coming against your proposition that you made based on men and being weak in this. I was actually commenting on your stance. I actually wasn't making a stance there. So I think that you misunderstood that and you misrepresented my point. So actually, both me and her are both in congruence here when we actually speak upon men and the application of force. There's been no contradiction. You used an argument that was based on your argument because, unfortunately, you actually took the affirmative by accident because we shifted it. Now again, you haven't actually demonstrated how force doctrine isn't applied almost unilaterally in all societies. You haven't given us any examples at all. You've actually given us examples to the positive. You showed us Queen Elizabeth. Now, again, you're saying what's an inherent good. It doesn't actually matter because we're talking about positive. What is the definition of positive?
How is that positive? So it's positive because it's the majority?
What's the definition of positive? I just asked you the question.
Right. So I would say that it's like a net good for the society. So
So hold on. You were going from Oxford to now using proprietary.
You're telling me it's positive, so I'm like,
I just want to know when you draw a stance and you don't use the internet or some other authority to actually appeal to get your definition from. Right now, you're defining it for yourself, but prior to now, you were trying to appeal to
we can
another
still use
authority,
the Oxford,
which is men.
I gave you a bunch. You don't. You're like projecting so hard.
Yeah, what's interesting about this is, once again, she did use the Oxford for the first one. I can use the Oxford now, and it still lines up exactly what the her proprietary definition was. If I'm going to go sit here and go, constructive, optimistic, or confident, that's the one that would be most applicable to what we're talking about right now. Okay, if we're going to take that definition from Oxford, okay, cool. How does that not line up with what you're saying? How is it not a net positive? How is this net positive? You haven't demonstrated at all. In fact, I've demonstrated multiple times with multiple historical examples where this is a net negative. And I don't actually agree with your idea of force doctrine, because force doctrine, in this case, comes down from the top. If all the men in the world are scared of one woman, that woman's got the force of power and the force of will. Like Joan of Arc leading an army, just like Queen Elizabeth leading an empire. If one woman at the top has a high force of will, then guess what? Force doctrine applies equally via soft power than it does the hard power with the men. Just because she's using men, every one of those men is her baby back bitch in this regard, because they are doing everything she says, knowing they can go in there and physically take her off the throne. So that your force doctrine argument falls flat.
Listen, hold on, let me finish.
I also was just going to say, let our side finish first.
Let me take 10
speaker,
seconds.
please. And I was just going to say, bro, you keep fucking making me lose my train of thought. It's very frustrating.
Okay. Yeah.
No, serious. I'm dead serious. You need to be polite, please. It's very frustrating. God, I should have written it down. I didn't think you were going to do that again, dude. You need to fucking,
It's all right. We're going to take our time. Everybody's going to take our time. We're all going to take a nice deep breath. Let's all do a little woosah on the panel. And we're all going to calm the fuck down. And then we're going to just hand it back to Kel. She's going to get her train of thought back with her. We're going to work through this. All right. And to the chat, finish the fucking goal before I just go to bed, because I'm already over all of this. Does anybody have a line of logic that they'd like to run, or maybe a standpoint aside from just throwing shit at the wall? I'd like to hear something fundamentally break down instead of just words and things. But I'm going to hand it back to Kel. Do you have your train of thought back with you, darling?
I'm so sorry. I'm backing it up
You muted yourself again.
It was so minor. But it was important.
It's okay.
It's okay.
Maybe you'll think of it when we continue talking, then you can, get back into it.
All right. We'll hand it. Yeah, we'll hand it back over, and then Kel, when you get that thought, write it down on your paper, and then raise your hand, and we'll bring it back to you. Okay. All right. Back over to Paige and Tweaker.
Yeah. So I think I made a lot of logical conclusions here, and I've had a lot of stats to break it up as well. We know that men hold the majority in these key infrastructure positions, and with the enforcement of things like the military and police powers. And, women just do not hold these positions. They don't have the real world experience. I'm not saying that women can't be good at these roles or that they don't have the potential. I'm just saying currently that's not the reality. So when we're talking about electing officials, we already have a requirement that somebody be a certain age to be president, right? There should be requirements, and I believe these do exist by force of election, as to whether or not somebody is suitable for the role. Right? Obviously, somebody who has experience in the military is going to make a better world leader. We just know this. They have the launch codes, for crying out loud. We know that somebody who's more knowledgeable in construction is going to be more knowledgeable about what legislation should come into force in order to assume that there's going to be enough, houses for people when they move into a specific country, or to determine how many people can move into that country in order to be properly housed and cared for by the public system and the private system. So I just don't see how you're not obtaining the correlation there. Real world experience makes good leaders.
I think Kel had her. Did you find your thought? You
Yeah.
got it?
Sorry.
Okay,
And it would have been so quick, Tweaker. I literally was just gonna say, you said use a definition. I want to see you use a definition other than the internet or appealing to some random book or da. If I was like, well, I think it's this. That's great. Like, who the fuck am I? Like, I can't just come up with a definition because that's whatever that is, appeal fallacy that you said. Like, appeal to nonsense.
Is the Preddle done?
No, I'm just taking offense with these. I have fun at debating.
I like this. I've been waiting, Gibbs.
I just get frustrated.
Oh,
That's fair. Go ahead, Tweaker.
So again, we've described exactly what force doctrine is. We've tried to show you how it applies, and you keep obfuscating the same way that you've been doing since the very beginning of the debate. Every time that we try to run a line of logic, you try to obfuscate and go somewhere else, and obviously my brain just allows myself to follow. So at the end of the day, you have not demonstrated in any way. When you sit here and say, oh, this woman controls these men. Well, if these men were to just decide, fuck her, it's over, because it shows you the exertion of the force is men. It doesn't matter if you can manipulate the man. That's not the point. The force doctrine demonstrates where the force is applied from. No one's making a claim that a woman can't control that and manipulation. But at the end of the day, that man will be used against her. That's the point.
Yeah. So, yeah, I got to say, everything you just said is, for lack of a better way to put this, baby back bullshit. And it's real simple as to why. When I'm sitting here looking at this, I go, who's given examples, specifically in history, why this is bad? Well, that's us. We've given specific examples why it's bad. They've put forth these ideas. They posited this idea, this real-world experience is somehow good. I posited how that real-world experience might actually be a detriment in creating a logical political society that benefits most people. Now, I've actually posited forth examples, real-world examples. I posited forth how the force doctrine doesn't apply in the way they think they do, that it does. I've actually given all counter-arguments to all these. Now, I'm going to ask them the same question, because they asked us this repeatedly. Why is it bad? Well, why is it good that these people have these roles? You didn't really explain that. Whenever I actually gave real world examples of why social sciences and women who lead the field, lead the majority of people in those fields, they're actually like the highest number of people that get those degrees, last time I checked, and we see them in office right now working for the bureaucracy. They're the ones in the social sciences with the experience in those fields. I would posit, just by your own logic, since they have that experience in the education system and the experience in the bureaucracy, they would be the most qualified to lead in this regard. Now, what's crazy is that's using your own logic. Now, if we're not going to use your own logic and we're just going to follow through, once again, I'm actually giving a real world example. This works. You're once again just saying, it might work. You're not saying why good. You're just saying this is happening, which we're just pointing out exact reasons why bad. And that's really the problem with it. You have to affirm your case, and you all have not failed to do that at every single level of this debate thus far.
Okay, you've given examples of bad from your own moral purview, but when I ask you why it's bad, you never gave an answer. So again, you're basically just asserting that because you think it's bad, that it's bad. And all you've done is give positive examples. You've given positive examples and negative examples of why masculinity is good. Again, you've never asserted that positivity doesn't come from masculinity. So we've shown it many times that masculinity actually is demonstrated in our politics in many instances throughout history. At the end of the day, it doesn't actually matter if you think that it's negative. I'm asking you to demonstrate that it's negative and tell me why bad. You've never given why. Where is
correlation is not causation
moral coming from?
Well, once again, I've done this, right? Once again, the metric, because it's polis, politics comes from polis, which means the people, right? Once again, when the people are dying, that's unquestionably not a positive influence to politics.
Unquestionably, it is questioned. I'm asking you why.
It's not unquestionable because, once again, polis, the people, if they're dead, they're no longer people. It's that simple. This is bad. This is the ultimate failure of what you're pushing forward, and what you push forward leads to more death. We've seen it time and time again. We've seen economic collapse, which leads to quality of life that is worse for the people. I'm sorry. Once again, I have grounded my argument in philosophy as well and in real world fact. You are sitting here arguing why bad. Why is economic collapse bad? It's bad. We all know why it's bad. That's a dumb question. Why is death, when we're trying to define what's good for the people for politics, why is death bad? It's bad. It's the ultimate failure, fam.
So you've used Genghis Khan as example twice now, both to defend and attack your own position, and I'm going to go ahead and use it here. You just now said that all of the people dying is bad, so that means propagating the people good. Genghis Khan is his example. You demonstrated our point, not your own. Again, we don't have to keep going back and forth. You haven't told us why they're not positive. You've actually told us why they're positive and negative.
No, you keep using that.
I wanted to give Paige, because she had tried to tap in earlier, so I wanted to make sure she had the opportunity. Paige, if you had.
Paige, you're an angel.
Sorry, everybody is so good at talking. So, no, I just wanted to make a point. Okay, I don't know how far we're gonna get with the morality thing. I think y'all's morality is cracked. I don't see how it can reach any objective conclusion. But I'd just like you to show me how in a society where we completely eradicate masculinity from politics, i.e. we remove all of the men from politics, keeping in mind that they hold the majority of all the seats in the House right now, like by a far shot. It's like 20% women. How is that going to make a better society? Tell me how.
I will tell you how.
Fundamental misunderstanding of what we hear all like
hypothetical. Can you not indulge in a hypothetical? How would you feel
because
this morning?
To remove because correlation does not equal causation. Like eliminating masculinity.
Doesn't matter. Answer the question.
From politics. No, because I'm explaining it to you exactly why. Masculinity in politics does not mean removing men from politics. That was not the prompt. Are we removing men? It's masculinity.
Okay, how are we going to do that? How are we going to remove masculinity? Are we going to put all the men on estrogen pills? Are we going to castrate them? What are we going to do?
Part of my definition of masculinity was biological. Testosterone was a main and key component of my definition.
Listen, just because parts of your definition are just inescapable from any form of masculinity, they have testosterone. Well, women also have testosterone. I guess they're masculine. This is dumb. That's a dumb argument, and we know that it's societal reasons was why. Is putting a kilt on in one country masculine? Yeah. If I put a skirt on here, they're going to call me gay. It's really that simple. So it's clearly a societal construct that determines what masculinity is. So when you're sitting here making this argument, it's ridiculous. Now, as far as your hypothetical, this is the problem, right, with your hypothetical, is we engage in the debate, which is masculinity is a positive force, all right? Then we pointed out that what you're offering is a fake, bad version of masculinity, right? We're not saying masculinity as a whole. We're not saying remove all men. We're saying remove what you're advocating for. And you haven't disputed that. Y'all sitting here and going, oh, well, this, oh, well, that, the pillars of fortitude. It's ridiculous.
No. I'm going to go ahead and speak to what you just specifically said about the kilt, because at the end of the day, that's actually feminine. That's actually feminine. The actual reality is it's very masculine to be stoic and actually represent your country. No. There is no country that believes. Yeah. There's no country that believes the kilt and Scotland, it's not viewed as masculine to wear the kilt. It's a part of the ensemble. Now, you want to sit here and talk about masculine and feminine. Feminine is the kilt. That's still feminine. The man wears it because, again...
That's ridiculous.
No, it's not ridiculous. Men of virtue actually uphold those virtues. It doesn't matter if I wear pink. It doesn't make me gay. It's not a masculine color. It's a feminine color, but a man's wearing it, showing stoicism.
You're arguing that a random piece of clothing or a random color is just inherently feminist or masculine or
never
feminine.
said inherent.
Hold on. So that's what you did right here with what you when you argued, oh, the kilt is feminine. Well, no. Based on their culture, it's not feminine at all. Based off, say I had a culture, I'm purely hypothetical. Let's run another one. If I had a culture and pink was the hardest color in the world and black was the most feminine color in the world, guess what? World changing, that's masculine in this culture. Just because your culture has a different definition of masculine doesn't mean it's not masculine. This is why I keep saying you don't have any idea what real masculinity is, and what you're proposing is a net negative for politics. It's confused men leading confused, the blind leading the blind.
No,
don't try and get away from my question. You just completely pivoted again. I'm going to give you an A+ this evening. Gibbs.
You guys just throw debate words around.
A+. Okay, let's get back to the point. Okay, we're talking about our culture right now. I mean, I'm not American, but this is what we agreed on for this debate. We're going to be talking about American culture. Okay, how are we going to remove masculinity in American politics? Explain this to me without eliminating men. How are we going to do that?
We eliminate y'all's version of masculinity by getting back to the good kind. That's what we needed to do.
What does that mean? What does that
go back to traditional roots.
You guys still haven't even.
That's what we've described. Traditional masculinity.
There's so many different versions of masculinity.
From the jump.
Okay, children. I'm trying really hard to get through this with all of you, and I think we just need to learn to look at the point that's being made and answer to the point. Go ahead. I think Gibbs, I think you were talking before everyone was.
I'll try to answer her concisely. Like the argument that eliminating all men is the only way to get rid of like what I'm calling this bad version, this new version of masculinity. Well, I'm trying to engage your hypothetical in good faith, right? Okay. So like you're arguing, okay, what's the way are we going to get rid of masculinity unless we get rid of men? Well, I'm arguing, well, that's not going to matter because even if we believe in force doctrine, you're still going to have quote unquote the masculine women. Then they're going to take over by your own argument. So like there's no like way that you're going to sit here and push this forward and like really get it. The only way we remove masculinity is not by removal of men, is by removing of this bad version of masculinity that y'all are proposing.
You just don't make
Equilibrium, like the movie Equilibrium.
Can you demonstrate that masculine women are beating masculine men? Can you actually demonstrate that?
Well,
this is the hypothetical. I don't have a way to like. I don't have a way.
Because in that hypothetical, you can't say that happens. Like again, we've proposed that force doctrine is men, and you've demonstrated that over and over by saying, "Hold on, stop." By saying Cleopatra used the men. You've used that in your own logic. So by your own logic, you can't actually refute that.
No, hold on. I was engaging in her hypothetical just now.
Yes, and you're
okay. Hold on. If there's no men left, who does the force doctrine?
Masculinity, masculine men.
If there's no men, if there's all the men in the world are gone, who's going to be doing the force doctrine?
You're talking about an impossible hypothetical. How are
all
the men
that's the hypothetical. That's what we were just engaging in.
Because a hypothetical has to be logical in order for you to actually apply it.
This is your partner's hypothetical.
No. It has to track in logic. All men can't go and women still exist. Can you name exactly how that happens?
This is your partner's hypothetical.
We're engaging with it for her.
I'm engaging in your partner's hypothetical. That's what I'm doing right now.
He's asking questions based on your answers to my hypothetical.
But we never said that it was in.
Fine. Did the women die off at some point?
No. You're acting like it's a concession. Let me go. You're acting like it's a concession by saying we need to get masculinity out of politics. We've given several examples of how we perceive it to be, and you guys are like, well, no, we don't have to.
You perceived it the same way.
No. You let me finish. I'm dead serious, dude. Like dead serious. You guys, we are asking you. How is masculinity a net positive in politics? You're saying, well, because men are like have fortitude and blah, 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 blah. You're never just getting down to the crux of, okay, these things are masculinity. These are adjacent, but causation does not equal correlation. What specifically, like, okay, you could swap out masculinity for like, say, fortitude or determination or particularly strong people. And it's not gender specific. Like there's so many situations. If we're coming up and it's like, okay, well, we're talking about an exception. Of course, majority, small, but if an exception keeps coming up over and over again, then it's probably a bigger situation than we like to think, right?
Would you not agree that my comprehensive list of things which contribute to the definition of masculinity most commonly occur in men? Like, are you going to argue
that contribute to the definition? But we still haven't gotten a definition. You've told me all the things that
5 times, lady.
No, you've given me characteristics, not definition.
Give it.
Okay, can you define masculinity for me, Paige? Because I don't think.
Yes. It's a combination of things. It's stoicism, leadership, protection.
So there's no
okay, fine. I'll give a more concise definition. Let me give a more concise definition.
No, that's not inherently masculine. You guys are
the fuck up.
You guys are just giving adjectives that could be girls too. That could be girls too.
I'm trying to give you a definition as you've asked over and over and over. I'll give a more concise one. Masculinity is going to be defined as a combination of traits which are associated with the male sex. How about that?
Yeah.
Is that a good enough definition? I gave it very clear and defended it throughout the entire time of this debate. So again, I've given you a very clear definition. Refute it.
So what about kilts in Scotland?
Yeah, again, that's not masculine. It's masculine based on societal principles in that society, but again, that's not inherently masculine.
Exactly.
Hold on. Let's just play this game. All right.
I've told you it's stoicism.
No, hold on. Let's just play this game here. So there's 2 things happen. One, your partner did do exactly what Kel just said, which is list a bunch of adjectives, and which was basically, stoicism, some other traits that are not, by definition, inherently masculine on their own. And I would argue, even if they were together, they are not necessarily masculine even together. Now, if we're going to argue about what you just said, let's talk about that. Well, you've given only the biological definition of masculinity. Cool. We're just finding how a man, just like it's a masculine adjective. Oh, that is a masculine animal. This is a dominating or whatever in this field of animals. It's like muscly. It's based off these biological characteristics. That doesn't have any bearing on how a social science like politics is going to be influenced in a net good. All you're saying is these characteristics exist as a biological animal. That's what one definition of masculinity. We're talking about the social aspects to this, right? That's why we keep bringing up the kilt analogy, right? Because masculinity is a social construct within a social science like anthropology or political science, right? So when we're sitting here talking this, we're not talking about your biological definition. We're talking about how it applies within a society as we know it, how it influences things. So your things, oh, cool, I have high testosterone. Well, guess what? If you're a woman within a species that has high testosterone, the animal might be larger than the male aspect of that. So it varies by species, even among the biological. And so when we're talking about politics, this has no bearing on the situation at hand.
And we gave you an example of that too. We gave you the example of how men statistically hold more jobs in these critical infrastructure sectors and in the military. And I told you that hasn't statistically changed even since the enforcement of DEI initiatives within the government itself. And you basically discounted that.
Talk about the societal constructs.
Sorry, base. Just let me finish. You're like, oh, well, women could do that too. I was like, okay, so why haven't they done it? Why are they not holding these roles? So even when they're given all the opportunities, since the most opportunities they've been given since the dawn of time, why are they not doing them? What is wrong there?
I would go back to I don't know why women aren't more involved politically.
You don't know.
That's a whole separate argument.
No reason
but I would say why the hell does the majority equal good? That still doesn't make it intrinsically good. You're saying, okay, well, men are in all these political positions, and they're always
know what you think is good, so we're at a loss.
They're typically like leading societies. Good. Okay, well, you guys don't think that fucking keeping people alive is like that good. Like it's like a nuanced conversation. We've defined our definition of good. You guys have not done the opposite.
Well, you know what's interesting is they've argued for forced doctrine, and we can actually point to examples where forced doctrine is a net failure. I mean, like, look at the most famous socialist in history, the national.
We're making
socialist.
an is claim, not a not claim.
Let him finish.
Yeah.
For fuck's sake, Based. Let him finish. Go ahead, Gibbs.
I'm sorry. But yeah, so if we're gonna look at your claims, you talked about forced doctrine a lot. Okay, cool. Well, we can point to net negatives of forced doctrine. Look at the most famous socialist in history, the National Socialists. You know, they're sitting here they're putting socialism into practice, and what are they doing? They're rounding up groups and they're genociding them. They're using forced doctrine to sit here and kill these people in mass. And your argument is, well, we can't tell if that's good or bad because who knows if dying's really bad. And I'm sitting here arguing, oh, this is an example of when this has failed. This is why we need to get these bad masculine traits, the ones that you're advocating for, out of politics. And we need to get the good masculine traits in, not your version, not your dumbed down biological only kind of logic. That it doesn't work. We've seen it time and time again. And this is why genocides continue to happen.
Where are the female leaders that we could draw a contrast
all
with?
the gish galloping has gotten to a point where it's ridiculous. We made a descriptive claim. We made an is claim that this is how it is. Forced doctrine is. I don't need you to give me an example of how forced.
You guys want us to stay in the United States?
We're saying it is inherent. That is the only inherent claim I've made the entire time. Is that forced doctrine is. I never made a not claim. I never said that anywhere. But you're presupposing that every time. You constantly failed to demonstrate at any point that masculinity isn't a positive. Because again, I made an is, and you wanted to argue it as an ought.
No, because bro.
Hold on. This is what's crazy is you're positing once again that it's a positive influence on politics. That's the debate, right? We are positing with specific examples of how it's failed over and over and over and over again. We're arguing, hey, this idea that you're putting forth is no good. It's bad. It's not the right version. And then when we sit here and bring this to you, you just go,
disqualify every example.
Yeah, you just disqualify it all immediately, every time. And it's just, we're literally using your own logic to try to explain this to you. And you're still going, well, no. So you're going against yourself. Like, how can you sit here and say forced doctrine is good? You're saying ought good. It's the same way. It's whatever. You're saying forced doctrine is the way it is. And then we give examples of the way it is being bad. And you go, well, how do we know? And the whole debate we're having is an ought debate. As ought, we should get rid of masculinity because it's not a net positive or a net negative. And we're pointing out the negatives. That's the ought of this debate. That's literally what we're doing.
When I ask ought with bad, you won't answer it. When I talk about is, you want ought. That's exactly what has happened the entire time. All you've literally done is sit here and constantly strawman my argument, obfuscate from the point, and never get into what I'm actually asking you to fucking talk about. At the end of the day, men do X, okay? It's a descriptive claim. I didn't say it was morally good or morally bad. That never happened from me. You made a claim and said it was bad. You said it was bad. I asked you to demonstrate it. You never did. Then we got into this weird tangent of, oh, well, they're the defense. Yeah, no, that's how you flip it on the opposition. That's how you do that. You never demonstrated how bad. So, after we demonstrated good, you consistently demonstrated good, and then bad, and then positive, and then negative, but you never demonstrated an anti-negative stance.
Here, Gibbs, when you do
anti-positive stance. Sorry, I said that incorrectly.
Here, Gibbs, when you do go, keep it short and sweet. Okay, let's keep this very simple.
Yeah, because clearly.
How thing bad. Here's several examples. And you go, oh, well, it's nuance. People dying isn't always bad. Da, 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 da. When we do that, you go, you guys need to be more specific. Oh, blah, blah, blah. And then we cite all these examples. You go, well, we need to keep it in the US. Okay, fair. So we're engaging with your hypothetical. Like, it's the same rabbit hole over and over again. I'm like, I don't get what you guys don't get. Like, just because you don't like the definitions that we provide. At least we came up with some, bro. At least we're not just like, well, it's nuance. It's like,
when I say something is bad,
wait, I'm sorry, let our side finish, please. Sorry, like, it goes, we let you guys go, now you go, Gibbs.
Well, actually, I got interrupted by Gibbs last time after my partner went, and you guys had went 3 times in a row. So no, apparently that isn't how that works. So no, my morality is given by God. Right? I'm giving you a claim based on my morality. You never gave a single claim based on why you think thing bad. Again, we asked this over and over and over.
You just brought up God. I didn't know that.
We asked you over and over why you think something is bad, and you consistently obfuscated from that point and tried to bring correlations between all bullshit.
No, I would say death.
Oh, I don't like this. This is a mean thing. Oh, this person did evil thing. Death. But when I ask you what bad is, you said, oh, well, they die. Well, why is death bad? Well, because they're not here anymore. Why is that bad? Where are you grounding? No, it's a philosophical question. Yes, it's a philosophical question. When you say something is bad, you have to tell me why bad.
Well, I'm like, I didn't know if this would have been a whole different conversation if you had started with, well, I know that morality comes from God. It's that's a whole different conversation because that's your specific grounding. And
there we go. There's an answer to the question.
What? No, it is like your world perception.
Finally,
it does affect the way we have the conversation. Because I don't know that. We could argue about specific things on that.
Well, hold on. First of all, once again, in my opening, he mentioned God. Once again, in my opening, I mentioned God several times. I mentioned the basis for what he's advocating for. Suddenly now he brings up God, which is interesting because at first they were kind of running away from the God argument. And I argued that the Christian version of God, it actually shows multiple empires failing the minute we have Christianity introduced into the idea of masculinism. So now we've just gotten down to his idea of what masculinity is. Great, fantastic. Now, here's the deal. Back to what your argument is. I've argued, and I'm going to lay this out one more time. It's very simple. I've argued why bad. It is the most simple form. Politics. The word comes from polis, which comes from people. I don't care about the philosophical aspect of like, is there a God? Is there a flying spaghetti monster? Because we are talking about real world, tangible outcomes that we can measure. When I can point to things like forced doctrine and the Nazis being in power and committing genocide, or I can point to any other genocide in history like Sudan, I can point to, the Native Americans, or I can talk to forced doctrine. Even if you agree with the overall outcome that, these people dying is a failure of politics in some regard. It's a net negative, right? Because the goal of politics is for the people. It's a policy. Authoritarian governments, those are bad. Why? Because people's lives, they are oppressed. Because we know for sure, unless you take it on faith as a Christian, is about what we have here in the now. You can argue what's morally good or bad. You can argue, hey, it's great if we die, we all get to heaven. That's cool. But for the rest of us, we're sitting here living in the real now. I don't know if we all get to heaven. Do you have a stat book tells me who got into heaven and how many? No, I don't. Only God has that. So guess what? The only thing we can actually measure is who died here. And if people die, that's a failure. And I can sit here and point to masculinity leading to millions and millions and billions of deaths over time here in the United States and worldwide. So, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm the only one with tangible real-world fact on my side.
Oh, you're on mute, beat-based.
Tangible real-world facts. Where do they come from? But they come from God for me. Where do they come from for you?
Evidence.
Oh, evidence. Okay, so what is evidence? Can you describe it for me?
Well, if
survival rate.
I would go and say if I go find a mass grave of 1,000 people.
I said define. I didn't say give an example.
Well, you said what is evidence? That's
no. I said define it for me. Actually, very specifically, I said define it.
Okay, then we'll play the definition game again.
No, you're gonna go with me. You're gonna go with me on a journey.
Evidence definition. Okay. Okay. Let me pull up a definition. What is the definition of evidence?
I would love it. Yeah, anyone you want. Take it.
An outward sign, something that furnishes proof.
Okay. So, can you define it now?
Yeah, I would say an outward sign, such as example, because they do have examples listed here, but I'll use one of my own because it fits. An example would be, hey, I found a mass grave where they killed 1,000 people. That would be an example of outward proof of a genocide being committed, which would be a net bad and bad for people.
It should be.
Bad for
You're making an ought claim. Where is your ought claim coming from?
No. I'm making an example of what exactly evidence is.
No, you actually said should. You said should.
If you're really going to argue about should, okay, fine.
You're making an ought claim.
The argument is this is outward. This is an outward sign.
Let him fucking finish, Based.
I said 10 words and he said a monologue.
He's giving you his definite. You asked a question. He's trying to. Jesus, Lord, have fucking mercy. Oh my God. Thank you, Travis, for the $50 to crack the beer. Praise God. Gibbs.
I'll drink with you. Yeah, sorry. I mean, I
don't know if I should do that for the beer.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I know. But what I will say is, when you're asking me this, I gave you a literal definition, and then I gave an example that fits that definition. Yeah, that's what evidence is.
Okay, so when you talk about evidence, can you give me evidence of your claim that it is morally bad that someone get murdered? Where's the evidence?
Yeah, because there's laws against murder. Laws were made to protect.
Laws not evidence.
Hold on. Laws aren't evidence.
No, they're not. Law is a descriptor. Law tells you what to do. It doesn't tell you what morality is.
So I think I understand. I
understand why is murder good? When could you ever justify?
No. I understand why he's confused now. Okay.
I'm not confused.
You are confused because you're arguing that your authority for morality comes from God. Cool. I'm arguing that in the context of this debate, the only authority that we need to appeal to is the politics and polis, which is in the framework of the actual debate prompt, right?
That's not how morality
is masculine. Well, cool. I'm sitting here talking, and the definition of morality, in the sense that I'm talking about, is what's good for the people, right? In the polis, in the political realm, what's good for those people. And if those people are dead, that's bad. That's unquestionably bad. It's a form, a real logical line item. I'm done. Basically, the point is it's bad if it doesn't help the people.
So every time you to tell me what bad is, you say bad. Bad polis, bad this, bad that. Every time it's bad is bad is bad is bad. It's circular.
Let's just you guys harp on this.
I have grounding.
I'd like to point out. I haven't talked much on this panel all night. I'd like to point out.
Here's where we let Based finish his thought because he was waiting for Gibbs.
No, Paige can talk. Paige can talk.
Okay, and then Paige, and then back to you, Cal.
Okay, so I guess me then. So Gibbs, the exact examples that you pointed out are situations wherein forced doctrine is being utilized. Why is forced doctrine being utilized in these examples, which you think are bad outcomes for society? Oh, I don't know. Is it because only men can do those jobs on a wide scale basis, and therefore we need men? And ultimately, I guess sometimes that might result in a bad outcome. Sure, humans are not perfect, but what we're seeing is that generally men are needed, men are valued, men do result in good outcomes for society. In fact, they formed America, something that your debate partner pointed out many times. And I don't see how that would be possible without women, because I don't know there wasn't women that were in those roles to do that at the time. And there still aren't. There's still only 20% of the House. So what's going on? Why are they, if they're so capable, they're so able to do this, why are they not in those roles? And you have not provided me with a logical answer to that question, despite me asking it, 3 times now.
Because it's completely irrelevant. That's
not irrelevant. This is a very freaking question.
Oh my God. No, because I literally said a million times, girl, does the majority, just because people have been the majority of something, that doesn't make it inherently good. So we're asking you now. I'm like, Gibbs, and make them answer. Like, bro, literally.
Tell me what the good is. I mean, you just said that.
I did. We've done our best.
You're a patriarchist. Then you're a patriarchist. If you're Christian, are you a patriarchist? Do you believe that men should lead in certain roles?
I don't know all these big situational words. I look at things like in context of the ways that I understand them.
Why? It's just out of convenience because you can't answer the question. You're just going to dodge it. It's just like.
Look, we've listed historical examples of women being in power and stuff. And then it's
they still needed men for force?
But the majority does not mean that it's good. That's
Queen
not.
Elizabeth could have fought those armies on herself. Like she could have. Like,
no, that doesn't make a good argument. Saying that. If I say, why is it a good thing that there's a ton of ants in my cereal? It's like, well, because the majority of these cereal bowls have ants in them. It's like, no, that doesn't make any sense.
No,
like
that's a ridiculous argument.
Well, exactly. So now you see what that's completely ridiculous. If I'm saying, let me use another one. If I'm saying, yeah, it's the exact same thing. If I'm saying, why is it a good thing that my sister has her mattress on the floor?
I just want to say
the majority of people in college have their mattress on the floor. Of course not. You can't use the majority as an argument as a moral arbiter.
Please.
I just want to say
does
a couple
that
words.
not make sense?
When you say positive,
no, I'm asking you.
No, you can.
We've tried to define it.
You can
You
go back.
define it.
You can
You
go
define
back.
it. We've tried like 30 times. You guys try once.
I'm trying to say something, and I'm doing it calmly, but okay. When you say positively, you can say good. That's one of the possible definitions of it, but you can also say beneficial, right? Get good and beneficial are not the same thing. So when we talk about masculinity, force doctrine is masculinity. It's a part of the descriptor. So it is a positive thing because it's beneficial. When Cleopatra,
you do it.
I said positive is also beneficial.
Okay, define positive, beneficial. So we're using.
I'm showing you with your own example.
Let Tweaker finish.
With your own example with Cleopatra, okay, it was beneficial to her to rule with an iron fist with the men because of force doctrine. Because of masculinity, she was able to rule. Again, you would consider it a positive that she was. That's your own point.
Majority.
I have a question to the panel. Maybe you can help me. How does force doctrine incorporate into politics? Like how does that how are we exemplifying that dives into it?
Well, the interesting thing here that I really want to bring back to with the force doctrine in politics, right? Like, let's give an example. Here's why this really falls in their head again. Like, if I was going to take a literal example of force doctrine in politics, we would see something like a military junta where the military comes in and they directly take control from the president. So, like, let's just say hypothetically, the U.S. military decided, hey, we don't like what Donald Trump's doing, and they decided to throw a coup. Our general threw in, he came in with some Navy SEALs, and Trump's an old man. This man's not going to be able to fight a Navy SEAL. I don't think anybody that's a controversial statement to say. Guess what? Force doctrine now dictated that he's no longer in charge. Now, what if he turned around and said, okay, well, now this new dictator's coming in and he's going to kill all the people that are, I don't know, Christians. Guess what? Well, your authority and morality is delivered by God. That's not bad. That's not good if you're a Christian, if they're doing it for a different God. So when you're sitting here arguing this is a net positive, that's ridiculous. It's not true. And it's not based in reality, because I could sit here and look at, like I said, Queen Elizabeth. She had lots of people that obeyed her via force of will, which is just as key in force doctrine. Just like Donald Trump, he has the system behind him, which empowers him and allows his force doctrine to go forward. That does not mean that it is inherently masculine. That means it's a system designed where the one at the top, where that man or woman can exude their will through the people and the systems they have in place. That doesn't mean it's masculine specifically. Now, what is masculine in the problem is the examples I gave, where they're going and just using their own masculine sexual traits, like you described, their own biology, to physically take over and upset the system and cause problems. And this is why I keep coming back to the polis argument, is because I have defined it a certain way. We've talked about politics. That's the reason why I keep coming back to politics, is because of the prompt. Right? We're talking about what's a net good. And if the majority of people are suffering or dying, that's a net negative. That's bad. I don't need to appeal to your reasoning God gave you your morality, because what if I believe in a different God? What if these other people do all these things? What I can do is appeal to something that you live in, the real world. We can talk about what's net good. If you start suffering, guess what? That's a bad thing. If your family dies because of somebody in power, that's a bad thing. And masculinity has led to both of those things.
So much fallacious argumentation. At the end of the day, you're sitting here trying to equivocate a lot. You're making a lot of claims without any backing on them. What I'm asking you is to understand that force doctrine is legitimately the only reason why politics is able to happen. When you talk about rights, when you talk about freedoms, when you talk about liberties, all these things are defended by force doctrine, okay? So if you don't actually appeal to these masculine traits of these men that are defending you, then you're legitimately going to ruin your own society. So when we talk about net negatives and net positives, that's not what we're talking about net. We're saying positive force, okay? We're not actually saying that it's better or worse. We're arguing positive, and only thing that I've ever heard is positive because we've already described and prescribed what we believe morality to be. When you say good, right? I try to redefine it and help this conversation out and bring it into more of a direction where we say that it's a benefit. Men have benefited us in every way. You demonstrated several times in your own argument with Genghis Khan, for instance. It benefited society because we have population. Now we have a population crisis. We have a societal crisis due to feminism, not because of masculine virtues or masculine traits. So I implore you, will you answer one question for me, Gibbs? What happens when all of the population consistently goes down to zero? Net positive or negative?
When all the population.
Oh, with death? I don't know. It's nuance.
No. Population, repopulation.
Oh, wait. If the population just disappears, if everyone died off, I would say, yeah, that's a negative.
Okay, exactly. So you would advocate for hold on. You would advocate for repopulation, right?
Gibbs.
So
would you advocate yes or no? This is a yes or no question. I'm tired of the obfuscations. Yes or no?
What is your question?
R/Wush?
Would you say that since it's a net negative for the population to reach a repopulation rate that's so far that it declines to zero, okay? Would you say that repopulation is an inherent good?
What makes it good?
No,
inherently?
I would not say that.
What makes it good?
Tell me why
do what they do, Gibbs. What did it? Well, no.
Hold on, Cal.
Just give me a second, Gibbs. Okay. That's serious. Do exactly what they do. Why would you say that it's a net positive?
Okay, you can't answer a question with a question. I asked.
Yeah, you do all the time, and we engage with it because
no. I've answered so many questions that have never been responded to.
Run the line. Why is it a net positive if we take it down to zero?
Well, so I would like to answer that. So we can look at places where we have overpopulation and we actually needed negative reproduction. Like look at Easter Island, right? Where they overpopulated. That's a theory why they all died off. There's possibilities. There's lots of cases where we have overpopulation due to whatever. So we would actually need a negative reproduction rate, right? Where the resources management is a key thing. China had problems. They tried to do the one child left behind policy. Now it didn't work. Obviously, it was a failure. And there's benefits in some cases for large populations, but we also see ecological disasters occur in several incidences where it would have been better if they had a net negative decline and got to a more sustainable population genetically and ecologically. So yeah, I would not say it's inherently a good or a bad thing to have population growth or decline in this regard. No,
it's nuance.
So you abhorred to a theory of Easter Island? You actually never gave any kind of...
No, I don't know anything about Easter Island. I thought we were staying in the United States from now on.
No, he said Easter Island.
I said Easter Island because it's an example in historical terms where they think part of the reason why they went on... Okay, yes, we know. Well, the historical theory for the reason why Easter Island is doesn't have a current population is due to overpopulation, which caused an ecological disaster, and they died. Would you disagree with that as one of the general prevailing theories about what happened with Easter Island? This is just one example.
You're asking a hypothetical in real time, like in real life. That's a theory.
That's not a hypothetical.
No, it is because that hasn't happened. Nobody has actually given you a real world example of it happening, and you're proposing something that has never happened. We don't know it happened.
We have examples. This is just one of the more prominent examples.
Give me a real world example that's not a theory.
But we have examples in the Sumerian region with different cities over farming areas and damming it. Like Ur's a good example. They had problems there. They resettled. We have in the Indus Valley, multiple cities were destroyed due to fucking ecological problems based off their farming practices and whatnot. There's all sorts of examples throughout history. You are arguing something like, maybe I don't have 15 examples lined up ready for this, but you're arguing something that's historical fact. Overpopulation can lead to ecological damage if you're not doing it properly.
We never said that overpopulation couldn't lead to X. Our claim was a population decline to zero is a net negative. That was the claim.
No.
She agreed, you declined it.
That's not the argument that you made. The question you asked.
Being hyperbolic. Let me clarify. I was being hyperbolic because you said that death is nuance. It's nuance. If population death is
yes or
I
no.
didn't say nuance. We gave a prescriptive claim for morality, and you didn't.
I'm sorry. That is the implication of what you fucking said. That is my interpretation.
No, the implication that you're saying is we believe X thing is real, so it's
real. No, I know. I'm not talking about that.
You've never given us any kind of claim on why you think something's bad or good.
Asshole, I was being fucking hyperbolic. We've given you several examples all throughout.
No examples, but you've never told me where you ground your morality. That's the point.
Problem? Yes, we have. I'm like, just because you chose not to listen.
So who? So who and what grounded?
Look, do you see this? I think you should get one of these. It might help you out next time.
Do we need to? Can I ask? Do we need to? And I'm just trying to like maybe wrap you guys. I'm trying to wrap you guys into something when I do this. Why do we need to ground morality in order to establish whether masculinity being a positive is a positive force in politics?
Because they make a moral claim. They make a lot of moral claims based on what is bad, based on masculinity. You can't say masculinity is bad or it's a net negative. Stop talking. It's a net negative. You can't give these descriptive and prescriptive claims if you have no grounding in morality. I'm saying that by the grace of God, I can tell you what a man and a woman is. You haven't given me a reason why you think man and woman or masculine and feminine are different.
Okay. So are you saying, I don't know if they've necessarily said men per se. I believe Kel even corrected that and said just masculinity in and of itself. And the question is whether it's just positive or negative, but not whether it's good or bad. So that's again why I kind of bring it back to the question of why is morality involved in a net negative and net positive?
Because
it's not harm or good, it's net negative, net positive.
Because at the beginning of their claim, they tried to presuppose all of their information based on moral claims, based on good or bad. And every time I tried to question them, they pivoted and they tried to give examples of things that we were saying, that they were actually defending what we were saying in our example. Then they only pivoted to the actual definition I claimed of positivity when I changed it from morality. So again, we've demonstrated on both the moral claim and non-moral claim.
So can I object to that? Well, first of all, the person that introduced the good and bad arguments is you. You were the one who wanted to define bad. We were the one that wanted to define good. I wanted to define positive and negative, right? And I wanted to do it in context of what's good in politics, right? You're arguing some moral net good. And even our founding fathers, who in this case, they wanted a separation of church and state, right? So they wanted a separation from God in this regard. And this is the key thing here, is I'm talking about measurable outcomes. You're talking about potential moral outcomes depending on whether or not people believe in the same God as you, or if they don't, right? So what I'm arguing here is measurable outcomes. And when I can point to these masculinity sort of things, and these things that like force doctrine, talk about other different things, we talk about many things, and I point to negative outcomes, those are measurable net negatives in regards to the idea of politics itself. It doesn't matter what your God says when I can sit here and measure, at a unobtrusive, like abstract level, hey, these people, they believe in a different God, bad things happen to them under this thing, bad things happen under this thing, bad things happen under this thing, and it comes back to your version of masculinity. Okay, that's the problem here.
So you try to claim something. Can I say something? Your whole point about separating church and Sarah, unless you
I said go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, your whole point about separating church and state is simply impossible, because there's always going to be Christian politicians. It's just like my argument is like, how can you remove masculinity from politics without removing men? There's the two are inherently linked. There's just no way to separate them. I don't know how you would, and I don't know how you're not seeing the fact that, like we're saying, that there is a statistical basis on which masculinity has been good for politics. You don't have any data to compare it to. You don't have anything to back your assertions up other than
So hold on, I'm going to compliment what she said, because I was already going on that tangent to begin with. So when you sit here and try to say that separation of church and state is X thing, I don't think that you're actually understanding the fundamental principles of what that's based on. So when you have the 13 colonies that each individually had their own version of Christianity, the idea of separation of church and state from its conception, from the entire derivative constitution that we created, was inherently Christian and inherently based on the idea that you can fundamentally create your own version of what you believe Christianity is. I'm speaking colloquially. I'm not actually speaking definitionally, but that is true. So when you sit here and talk about religion, separation of church and state, there is none. The morality for your religion, what you believe in your state, when you talk about unaliving people, all of these things, it's based on Christianity. Even though you talk about separation of church and state, I don't think you understand what that principle was based on. It was called freedom of religion, so that I could be this and you could be that. Now, they didn't realize what it would demoralize into. The degeneration of society happened because of feminism, not because of masculinity. It was because of the lack of masculinity. So at the end of the day, you can argue the conflation of, this is separation of church and state because, religion bad. No, religion's the reason why we have morals in America.
Okay, I would say I'm pretty impartial on religion. I was raised Christian. I just have gravitated away from the church as I've gotten older. So I don't think anyone's argument here was religion, but maybe Gibbs. I don't know. He probably burst into flames in a church, okay? But no one's here sitting arguing saying that Christianity bad. The reason that we have separation of church and state, no, I wasn't. And then the separation of church and state is because wouldn't you agree that there's a difference between a Christian politician and a politician that acts in the interest of only Christians? Someone can have a faith in like a private sector.
How can that not govern?
No, because anyone who
inevitably
believes
make moral decisions.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I can have like very
believes in the
strong moral.
faith, they will legitimately enact that regardless as a politician. So
then you have
if
no
I'm a
business in
Christian,
politics.
no,
but that are only going to protect one demographic of people. That's not very masculine to me.
Demonstrate your R claim.
I don't know what that means.
So I like. Well, okay. Are there any non-Christian politicians in our government?
Oh.
Are we able to measure whether they're doing a good or bad job?
Are they real Christian?
Are there people that are not Christians able to determine whether something is good or bad? I've given you a metric for a non-Christian to measure whether it's good or bad. You're sitting here saying you have this decree given to you by God, right? I could even argue, okay, cool.
Maybe I missed it. Can you answer one question, Gibbs?
Muslim God, by a Hindu God. I've given you like a somewhat of an atheist or agnostic version where we look at the polis. I have measurable things. You're sitting here saying, "Oh, we haven't done these things," and it's interesting because we're the only one who've done these things. And then when we're responding to Paige, this is interesting because you still refuted our point from earlier about the adjectives you listed about masculinity, right? Would you say that Mother Teresa was stoic? If the answer is yes, which she obviously was, then it means that stoicism is not inherently masculine. And just because you have this trait, it doesn't make you masculine, right? So, okay, cool. And you listed a few others. I don't remember all of them off the top of my head, but stoicism is a good one because I could go to almost any nun. I could go to like women religious leaders worldwide. I could go to women leaders that are, leaders in social fields, Peace Corps, all these things, and they all have stoicism. And guess what? They're not masculine. And so that means your definition falls on its head. And so it doesn't matter whether or not we're thinking your God morals or your version, because either way, they're not inherently going to be the only version of masculinity.
So
yeah, no, he asked me. Word. Can I ask him? He asked me. Okay. I'd like to answer this because I'm confused. I thought men were inherently more logical than women. I've said this like a gazillion times. I said, look, these factors exist as in a combination, which is my definition of masculinity. Now, you can disagree with my definition all you want, but what you can't do is ask me to repeat it again and again and again, as your debate partner has done more so, although she's a woman. So I can hardly blame her for, having to, she gets distracted sometimes. I know, Kel. But I'm just saying, like, how can you not understand that? I think that they exist in a combination, okay?
ADHD, not because I'm a woman. Look at these two women.
Take a joke, Kel.
No, look, these two women actually, it's like causation, doesn't equal correlation. Because look, these women are stoic.
Calm down. Calm down.
Stoic. So it's almost like masculinity is like not an intrinsic thing that we can.
I mean, and what's crazy?
I'm not personally attacking you.
I know.
Okay. Well, just Paige respond to that.
It's just a joke. Take it or leave it.
I'm making a point. Do you get my point, though? Like, I'm just saying, it's almost like, oh, look, us three examples of women are completely different. We can't. That's not femininity. Like,
well, there's two real big problems with what Paige just said. One, if you're the sum of all your parts, then you can't be. You can't be more than those parts, right? So you just said, oh, it's the combination. Well, if none of those traits are inherently masculine, the sum of them is not inherently masculine, right? That's a basic logic step that anybody knows that took college logic 101. So yeah, you can't be more than the sum of your parts. I also think it's a physics axiom. So secondly, right, we're going to sit here and look at these things, and I'm sitting here going, hey, one of us is sitting here pointing holes and giving specific examples of why these things are bad. And y'all's argument is, well, God says it's fine.
That's not what we said at all.
Okay, so again, let me stop Paige for 1 second. Let me go ahead and go back and reiterate something that you're actually strawmanning really hard. So when I said that these traits are inherently one or the other, okay, I'm not creating a monolith, but I am creating an example of what they are. So when you take strength in society, and you got the men and you got the women, I said this earlier, and you've completely obfuscated from the beginning, okay? So you take the strength out of the men, society crumbles. All of the infrastructure stops being built. All of these things that we as men create are gone. But You take the strength out of the women, and the men can just pick them right back up again. You know what I mean? So,
Actually, no.
I wasn't done talking, so I can go ahead and go down that with all of the examples. Stoicism is a very good one. You tried to reference this, and I give you kudos for it, but you misrepresented it because it's an actually using emotions properly, and unfortunately, you haven't demonstrated it.
Properly.
If you were going to use your emotions and actually control them, I said the wrong word. You have to control your emotions. So they only control their emotions through Christ, right? They use Christ and His grace to actually do so. So they're using a masculine virtue. Yeah, I'm doing it right now. They're using the father and the patriarchy to actually do that. They're demonstrating it through them.
Most religions and doctrines have the same belief systems.
Say that again.
Most religions and doctrines have the same belief systems.
I said Christianity. No. I said it 3 times.
You know, what's really interesting about this is that you're actually wrong. If
we talk about the exception, not the rule, too.
Oh, no, hold on. Actually, no, I actually have historical evidence that will prove you definitively wrong on this one.
Do.
We can actually look at the most dangerous times in human history, which would be the hunter-gatherer period. And we have genetic data going back about 140,000 years with Cro-Magnons. And we can prove definitively during that time, the human population was whittled down to very small numbers, some potentially as low as 40, some to 1,000. And during these times, we had such small numbers of men to the point where they think that at some point, or maybe 8 to 10 men are the genetic lineage of all people going forward. And if that's true, guess what? Society didn't crumble. Looks like women were able to uphold it without very little male influence. And if that happened during our worst times, guess what? I feel like we're going to be okay in the best of times.
So you do realize that at one point it was one man, one woman, and now we have all this. Now,
well,
you're presupposing.
Even the Bible says that.
No, you are. You're presupposing
really, the
something.
Bible says that.
You're presupposing something without actual evidence. So I would like for you to demonstrate
that
was how society. No. I'm asking you a question right now. You're not going to pick the question. I'm asking you a question. Where is your evidence that ever happened? Because in society, all we've ever seen demonstrated throughout history is that men propagate society through force, women through nurture.
In my religious book, you said, okay, it's propagated one man, one woman.
No, I'm asking historically.
Okay, well, the Big Bang Theory in my fucking Bible says that we poofed and then there was 4 women and then the men came later.
Yeah, you're taking numbers and I was talking about traits. Why are you consistently obfuscating? I was talking about traits and you said, the number of men in society. This refutes a point that you made an hour ago. Can you stop doing that, please?
I would actually engage with what you just asked because
you won't engage with it.
I can go back to the. You asked me my evidence, and actually, I'm going to use the Bible and I'm going to use the genetic evidence. We have the genetic evidence. We can trace those. It's not even a question. We can provide the sources if you need to, but we can go back and look at them like all the way back. Thousands and thousands of years. Here's the second thing. Hold on. I got to say the Bible thing because this is key. In the Bible, you said it started with one man, woman. That may or may not be true. We can argue that, but we do know that when Cain was kicked out of the Garden of Eden, he was afraid. Why was Cain afraid? Because he wandered into the land of Nod, and he was worried that the other men would kill him. That's a direct quote from the Bible. Well, who are these other men? Because it doesn't list them at this point. So it means that God either made other men or God left out something, but it does mean that there were other men on earth, and men plural, the societies, because he goes into the cities in the land of Nod. So if this is directly in the Bible from that period, your own argument fails because even in the Bible is admitting there are other groups of individuals with different moralistic outlooks than what you're advocating for and different moralistic outlooks in regard to masculinism. And let me get that source for you.
No, just because you give something and say something happens and something exists, it doesn't mean that it is real or true. No, you just said you gave it consistent context. Right? Yeah, context that said thing exists.
So it's almost
that
like
actually means that it's moral? No. You're talking about the book that I'm representing, right? If you're talking about the book that I'm representing, it represents it in a very specific way. You're trying to mischaracterize what the representation is.
No, you said.
But at the same time, you're legitimizing the argument. By using it as your own reference, you're legitimizing.
Your exact question was, just because you say something is one way and you believe it to be so, does this validate its existence? And we're saying no. And so for you to say, all of society's morality is based in Christianity, just because you say something is that just how it is?
I said that's what we believe. Hold on, pause. Again, now you're
you never said that's what we believe. You always have
that's exactly how we got here. I legitimately said from the beginning, we given an example for why we have morality. You haven't given any. All you've tried to do is refute morality without a grounding. Again, we've asked you multiple. Because you're using our own morality to try to defend your own position. And that's fine because we're arguing about masculinity being positive, right? Of a benefit or a good. We've demonstrated good and we've demonstrated benefit, as have you, by our definition. So unfortunately, we're still waiting for a refutation that doesn't appeal to either our authority or another authority that you haven't defined your own morality for. Please give some kind of something.
Circles back on Christianity and masculinity the exact same way. It goes the exact same way that you fall in the circle where it's like, so we have our world understanding of it. And it's like, okay, well, no, we can list a million examples of why this is like just not intrinsic, like characteristic of this being this way. And then you're like, well, no, because blah, blah, blah. And so we pick through your argument and you're like, well, that's not true because blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, well, can you give any of the things like arguing your point on the positive instead of the contrary? Like, because we have, and you guys have not.
Yeah, and you've also supported our position with many of your points. You said that men basically built America, that they've led wars. That without
and I
men,
still am waiting for you to answer that. Majority
impossible.
does not mean good. Majority does not mean good.
How else are we supposed to do this? Okay, if you had to select an army, okay,
we're asking you, and you haven't defined it.
Just a second. If you have to, well, I'm asking you a question to test your logic on the question that you asked me.
Okay, if I fast how you guys
I haven't even asked the question, Kel. Calm down. Let me ask the question, okay? The question is, if you have to choose an army, you are the politician, okay? This is a test of logic.
Another insane hypothetical. Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
The world leader, okay? You have to pick an army. You don't know what the other country is choosing. All you know is that you have to select either men, or completely women for the army. Who are you going to choose for the army and why?
Robots.
In this hypothetical,
men or women?
I'm in a coma. I'm in your fucking a coma during your hypothetical. What then? Like,
it's a logic test, Kel. Can you engage in
No, it's a stupid hypothetical because you guys can't ground things in reality.
Find your conclusions. We're winding down.
Kel, how would you feel if you didn't have breakfast this morning?
Dumpster fire is almost at a conclusion. Okay.
How would you feel if you didn't have breakfast this morning, Kel?
Please, no.
How would you feel if God didn't exist?
So you can't answer to a hypothetical to test
I would feel the way that I feel right now.
Yeah.
All right, I'm done. Okay, let's move into closing statements, and we will multiply. We will exponentially increase this dumpster fire. I don't even this. Look, I'm just gonna start off by saying, Based, you win the Spurg Award. Paige, you win the. I would say like waiting your turn award because you were very good with that. Cal, you win the emotional award, and Gibbs, you win the monologue award. I, however, win the I need another fucking beer. Somebody pay to crack it, please. $50, I'll crack another one. Holy shit. I would actually like Teriak. And this is where I'll compliment Teriak. I would rather have Teriak come and troll a debate like he's done before than ever do this one ever again. I think what we need to, this is just my critique, okay? I think you all had arguments in place, but you didn't know how to direct them in such a way where you could actually run a line of logic to get down to the base root. You were trying to get there, but you were just throwing shit at the wall and seeing what would stick. And then whatever the response comes back, then you just throw more shit at the wall. If we had like kind of stuck, think of it like an equation. If we had stuck to an equation and we're deriving down, and dividing down, I think you would have gotten to a better place. And you would actually come to a base root of the argument and would have actually been able to be conclusive and be productive with the conversation. But we all went in a lot of example mode, statistic mode, kilt mode, all of these different things. And it just, all it is just shit at the wall. All right. That's my critique. I still think you're all strong debaters. We just need to learn on how to direct the conversation and get to where we want to go. All right. Mr. Gibbs, would you like to start with your closing statement, please?
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you having me. Thank you so much. I'm Admiral Gibbs. I'm generally a conservative Texas nationalist style debater here. I believe in small government and conservative values and I guess hedonism. However, today I've been asked to play the lib as a fill-in, so I apologize for annoying my constituents on my side and, whatever. But moving on. As for closing thoughts, I will say this. There was one person here, I would say Kel to an extent, maybe two. There was one person here who was logically consistent throughout the whole thing, right? We defined what the idea that we were looking at was. We looked at the prompt. It was masculinity in politics is a positive thing, right? That's what we're looking at, right? It's real simple. We've sat here and I've defined what politics is. It comes from the word polis, which is the people, right? This is what's good we're looking at. We're seeing what's a good for the people. People dying, people suffering. We can unequivocally argue that's good, bad for the people if that's the goal of politics. If the goal of politics is to provide, that's bad. Masculinity has failed these things. I've also provided in the private chat evidence of where at times in history where we have up to a scenario, a ratio of 1 male for every 17 females because men are all dead due to disease and war or all sorts of other reasons. We have several points in history where we reach bottlenecks and women carried us through those times with a very limited number of men. It's very simple, in my opinion. They've only presented something at the very end recently, which is their moral framework of God. They avoided that to the last 15 minutes and then threw this in last minute to try and save the debate. It's a Hail Mary. It's a very bad one. And there's only one group that's been consistent. It's been us. We've had concrete definitions. We've had concrete evidence. We've stayed in the real world. And even if we play by their metric, it's real simple. We can go by other societal things. And biological masculinity is totally different from societal masculinity. And that's a key part here because the societal masculinity that they're advocating for is very bad. It's been a detriment to politics for a while.
Thank you, Mr. Gibbs.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for having us, Sarah. I'm sorry we were a headache. I also feel like I have like a lag on my headphones, so not 100% contributing. Okay, but I apologize, and hopefully we have the opportunity to rectify the situation sometime. But I just wanted to say I feel like the main crux of the argument is like we all wanted each other to like front with definitions. If we don't agree on like our like preliminary definitions, and I just felt like we were never going to get anywhere. Like I felt like okay, well these people are arguing like that. Well, it's nuanced. If death is bad, like death of your people, it's like, well, we're not going to get anywhere if it's like you can just cop out and say we're not going to get anywhere, but we have to every single like point we go down, and then we jump down your dumb hypotheticals, and then it's like, well, you guys are getting lost in the weeds, and then we ask you a question, and it's like a complete pivot where it's like just holding up a mirror the entire time. I think Gabe said it best. Signing off. Thank you for having us. GG. And I'm sorry, Doug.
You're fine, Cal. Thank you so much. Paige, to you.
All right. First off, obviously, Sarah, thank you so much for putting up with this debate, which turned out to be a trash fire. I cannot even imagine how much more of a trash fire it would have been if Duck was president. No offense, Duck. But that would have been crazy. So I'm so glad that we didn't have to put Sarah through possibly an additional medical prescription just to survive a further debate. Obviously, thank you so much to my debate partner, Tweaker. You're an amazing debate partner. I'd have you back anytime. Yeah, you really kind of peeve people off sometimes, but I think that works in your favor in terms of the opponents, not the moderator. In terms of our position outlines, this is my outline closing. Our opponents failed to comprehend basic things like our definition of the word masculinity or how it was applicable in certain situations. Despite giving notable examples of how masculinity is a prominent and driving force in society, I never saw a counter prescription as to how an alternative would be suitable or even available to society, i.e. via the means of something, I guess, ridiculous to me, like basically removing the like, I don't know, you know what I mean, the conjoinings of men, or perhaps putting people on equilibrium like emotional regulating. I said, okay, what about limiting men? Didn't get a clear answer to that. I don't think that our opponents actually proved their point. I don't see how they proved that it was a negative. And I know that they say, okay, it's our point to prove, but I think we did give sufficient examples. So in closing, I'm going to be a bit biased here and give the W to us and the L to the other side. And I appreciate that one of the partners was, brought in at the last moment, but I still don't really think that's an excuse. So yeah, thanks so much.
Oh, shots fired.
Okay, so I want to fire shots, but unfortunately they're not enemy shots. Gibbs, you are annoying. You are so annoying in the best possible way. And I gotta say, dude, like you had me, and this is my closing statement. That's the worst part of the entire thing, because my logic was infallible, and yet I blundered myself the entire time because I was trying to argue you instead of what I actually cared about. So I'm gonna go ahead and outline exactly what you didn't understand when I said that masculinity is these virtues, these masculine virtues. I showed and demonstrated multiple times that men overarchingly require these, whereas females don't. That's what makes them masculine virtues. And I've outlined them several times, but I also include that there's biological factors, behavioral norms, and roles in society. So when you tried to use other examples, I showed you that the actual kilt and the skirt of it itself is not a representation of masculinity, but the using of it is, because it's utilizing the virtues of men. So when we talk about a positive in society, both your argument and your supportation and refutation of your argument was in support of a certain version of masculinity. It doesn't matter if it's our definition of masculinity or yours. The truth of the matter is that masculinity is a positive force. You should have demonstrated the opposite was more true. That would have actually been more congruent with your point. Unfortunately, you tried to say that we threw a Hail Mary when the entire time we were trying to understand, when you kept saying bad, 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 you were presupposing it was bad. We gave our morality reluctantly because we tried over and over to get you to admit yours. Many times I tried to run down that line of logic, you obfuscated and tried to straw man my argument. Now, again, you're a very strong talker, Gibbs, but you need to understand that I follow everything that you said, and most of it was pretty much incoherent. Thank you, Sarah. It was an amazing time. And Paige, you were probably the best partner I could have ever had.
Oh,
you sat down and shut up like a good girl.
True love over there. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I know a lot of you shit talkers are in the chat. The link has officially been dropped to the chat and pinned at the top. If you want to jump into open panel dumpster fire, feel free to start heading backstage while we go through our super chats. And here they come running in. Cat GPT, I'm just going to shout this one out. Top notch, top tier. We love Cat with a big 100. I told the chat, I said, if you drop 100, I'll end the torture now. And this came in like just as I was summing it up. So I'm going to say to all of you in the chat, you're welcome from Cat. She spared you, okay? She absolutely spared you. Actually, I will say my mom even texted me and she said, because my mom watches all of the debates and she's always here, you know, in the chat and watching the show. And she even texted me and said, I'm out. This is just too much. So fair, if you could scare Mama Tomato away, that to me means a lot because she normally enjoys the chaos. Cleaner409 to kick us off with the Big 10. Hitting the like button has been proven to reduce breast cancer and erectile dysfunction. If you do not hit the like button, you are promoting breast cancer and erectile dysfunction. Preface to that, this is not medical advice, nor is it true. It is satire and parody in and of itself.
Medically true.
It is not medically true.
Medically true.
Nuke says, a video of your choice, Sarah, when you feel like it. Yes, we will, during open panel dumpster fire, along with K2 Keep on Trucking, asking for the horse video. We will drop those during open panel dumpster fire. K2 asks, you guys made me think of a question for the panel. Which is worse, getting kicked in the balls or giving birth?
I wouldn't know. I don't have a penis, so I wouldn't have the metric to know. I would say that.
They have that. They have a tool. They have a tool now that measures them. But where you can do I guess they figured out the exact joules and nerve endings or whatever. You can do it. I don't know. I don't know if you'll watch TikTok, but they do those TikToks where the guys walk out and they're like make them feel like they're having kids, and then they've done the ones for the women where it makes them feel like they're getting kicked in the balls.
I have an answer to this question because when I had kidney stones, I had 3 women that all examined me and said that this is worse than giving birth. So,
totally vindicated.
Yeah. But that's not getting kicked in the balls, though.
It's worse. It's worse.
I believe it, bro. Yeah, my friend fucking did.
I've been kicked in the balls many times. I mean, I have them.
But the kidney stones were worse for you than getting kicked in the balls.
Yeah, I can imagine they'd be worse.
That's a fair metric, then. I can understand that.
Yeah,
I couldn't tell you.
I've delivered 2 with no epidurals, and I would have gladly done it again and again and again. The pain is very temporary, and your body naturally mutes a lot of that.
You ever had kidney stones?
Temporary too. What the fuck?
I don't like needles, so I couldn't do an epidural. But
have you ever seen kidney stones or no?
No, I had a kidney infection that they thought was like, they thought I had kidney stones at first, but and I was like in absolute pain. They had me what's that what is that drug? Morphine? Is that what it is? They had me like so dosed up. I was like so freaking high as a kite because I was screaming in pain. And that was like a kidney infection. Yeah. But they originally thought it was kidney stones. So that's about as close as I can get.
You had morphine for your kidney infection, but you wouldn't have epidural for the birth?
Well, because
because
of the
IV.
implication on the child.
I fear that idea of being paralyzed from the waist down, especially like needles going in the back. It's very creepy to me. Siege says for the Bratty Tomato Fun, based Paige and masculinity for the win. And then, of course, random guy coming in to critique me. Just because they're on the affirmative doesn't mean they can't ask for the counter arguments and point out the flaws in the assertion. The negative is arguing straw man. The affirmative side gave the definition of masculinity. The negative switched it out. However, I don't think that the claim of bad was made. Like, that's the question that I had. That's why I was thinking like they didn't make the affirmative claim. Therefore, it's kind of like not really part of the dissection.
We did.
For them.
Well, yeah. They claimed it was bad over and over.
Well, yeah, I mean, so this is kind of what I was saying in my closing, right? Like the metric I'm looking at, like in this regard, and once again, like I'm playing the opposite side. We usually play probably on most of these issues. Is that like I'm looking at like a positive, net negative, right, for the people, right, and any group of people, like of a significant number. And so when it's failing, I can definitively say that's bad, right? That's a measurable outcome, right? I don't need some moral code to tell me that. I can come to this determination about any society, and that's kind of the point that I was going with in regards to that. And really, when I'm talking about the affirmative position in their regard, I was taking it as, okay, I could prove there's a bad outcome. There's a negative outcome for the polis, which is what I'm talking about, the people, the politics. And then when I look at what they're saying, they're not providing any example of why positive. They're just providing the is, and they're not providing the ought, kind of like what I alluded to earlier in the debate as well. That was kind of the point we were making.
Fair enough. Random guy coming in with another critique. How are they supposed to have a line of questioning if they can't continue with the person that originally proposed the critique that just allows the negative to make assertions and then hide behind their partner jumping in to take away from having to actually substantiate their claims? I still think it's fair game for two partners to share the load. Pause. In terms of a debate, because sometimes one person has the thought process, or one person's following from the outside looking in, so on and so forth, or they might have a better definition, or one person is better prepared for that. And I'm okay with team members jumping in to support you. Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
So I demonstrated multiple times to you and the audience, Sarah, where I would stop talking. And if I didn't assert something, it wouldn't be a team. It wouldn't be a 1-1. It would be them. And then they go again. And then they go again after Paige went. I demonstrated it multiple times that if I didn't assert myself, they'd make a bunch of baseless claims and spit a whole bunch of points, which is I tried to demonstrate over and over and over. I can spur with the best of them, but I also demonstrated that I could calm myself down. And when I did, I didn't get to speak, like almost at all.
Wait, I didn't see you calm yourself down, so maybe that's why.
Yeah, you can't see. I understand. That's why you're a leftist. That's why you're a leftist.
Yeah, I think you needed mommy to tell you to stop a lot. And in all fairness, Tweaker, I did hand it back to you quite often when you were interrupted. Just the same as I handed it back to other people when they were interrupted. And we all, I believe all four of you were there backstage during that conversation of interruptions are my pet peeve. Don't do it. I actually count points, like mental points against you if you continue interrupting each other. And then you kind of like lose your abilities to do other things if you are breaking the rules. It's kind of like you're losing your privilege at that point.
I implore to understand that I actually was the first person consistently interrupted 3 points in a row when I started saying, fuck this, I'm going to interrupt everybody. Because I remember when it happened.
Fair enough. A random guy again says, laughing my ass off, she is crying. Could you imagine a woman like her being the majority in politics? This is why masculinity is positive. I don't think crying, are you trying to be a politician, Kel?
I also would say, I wouldn't say most people describe me as a blatant example of femininity. So that's when you're looking at a microcosm, like I said earlier on the panel, look at Paige, look at Tomato. I think we can see that there are very different types of women here, okay? But
I think that's a fair assessment.
Can you imagine these girls being in politics? Society would be saved. There's different metrics here. Like,
considering there are grown ass men who come on these panels quite often, and they make Base look like a very calm person, to be quite frank.
I'm a rage crier. When I get raged out, I just cry.
My metric of masculinity is very tarnished in a lot of these panels. Evan Lord says, Sarah,
imagine.
God bless you for helping build up these new debaters. You're watering these tomato seeds. Also, could you put Base Tweaker in timeout for constantly interrupting and saying nothing in substance? Ooh, shots fired. And of course, Kat throwing the Big Ten just to hit the goal. We love that. Powder Dusty saying wearing pink does make you gay.
True.
Shots fired. I think actually men used to wear more pinks and reds, and women used to wear more blues.
I look fucking sexy in pink.
I love a man in pink.
I'm going out. I'm like, come and get you some. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what they talking about.
Yeah, that's fair. I will say, like a man at a pink polo, nothing sexier, or like a pink Hawaiian shirt. Woo!
I'm gonna veto that. Are you flirting with Gibbs in front of us?
Oh, you know what? Actually, Nate Doc is backstage wearing a pink shirt. TD sending tomato love across the board. I love it. Cat GPT sending another 10. Did I just hear the pink fallacy? We have a lot of fallacy, Clay. We had one, what was it, a couple debates ago. It was just like this fallacy, that fallacy, and the chat was just having, we were just having fun. Fallacy would be like why your argument is not an argument. It's not logical. So, for instance, if I appeal to emotion, right? If I'm appealing to your emotions as my my logical basis in my argument, well, your emotions are they're all over the place. So I'm appealing to something that's not really anything. Or the fallacy. You know, you could go all over the place with that, but
Can you use like any adjective? Like, could I say they were using like the society fallacy?
No, there's actual fallacies built in place. I mean, you could see that with like even saying something's a slippery slope, something is a bandwagon fallacy, like because everybody's doing it, so therefore it is right. And you were trying to get there with the majority thing, but you weren't utilizing the right space for it. Had you gone with the bandwagon idea, it would have helped a little bit. But yeah, everything's just a fallacy at this point. BB says studies show women will survive 30 days minimum without men. Think about Bear Grylls' man versus woman island challenge.
I want to thank him for that one, by the way, because when he posted that, I read that and I was like, oh yeah, I saw these studies about the bottleneck, and then we went. So thank you for that point. I appreciate that. You know what I mean?
BB.
Yeah, I appreciate that one.
Fair enough. K2 keep on trucking says, buy Sarah some alcohol for this shit show. Yes, please do. And then Oma John says, an ounce of beer for you. I'm on beer number 1 of 2 tonight. No one paid me. Sad. I mean, I have to make you guys pay me because I don't like to drink on panels. But if you buy me a beer or whatever I have in the fridge that's randomly there, I'll drink one. So, yeah, fair enough. Jess Gerald with the big 20 says, eviscerate operative page. Is that 06?
06.
Why 06 for you?
I think he meant or maybe because I'm a woman.
07 would be the salute. Maybe you get like a like
joke. I don't know. You might have
cancel that one now.
Fair enough. And again, Travis was the hero sending the Cash App to crack the beer. Thank you very much. K2 keep on trucking for real, Sarah. I know I joke about this all the time. Well, I'm stopping at the Loves for some cigarettes, American Spirits after this debate. K2 is not a smoker, but often enough, our debates get enough to where K2 feels the need to become a smoker. Cat GPT, interruption fallacy.
She's funny.
Making shit up at this point. BB says, women are amazing and beautiful. I have a daughter, a vocal simp. Men bring less peace in my life than vocal feminists. Shots fired.
So we paid one instead.
Mosap, go ahead.
No, we paid one. Sorry.
Oh, got it. Hall Long says, why is it the left can't ever engage with an is versus ought concept? There's always the individual preferences to their view.
That's a good question.
I believe that was referred to you. I think he was presuming.
I know. That's why it's funny. I once again, if we're asking about that, who really didn't engage? I sat here and I engaged under their Christian doctrine. I sat here and engaged under my doctrine, which I put forth at the beginning. And then I showed why there was like basically a logical fallacy in their way of thinking in regards to. I had to get that word in there, but in regards to how we're like sitting here going down this train of thought. Like mine was clearly point A to point B to point C to point D. Right? Theirs was A. Oh, we're over here in G. Now we're over here to this. Like, it was very straightforward, and they didn't really prove their point, in my opinion. That's why I don't know. As far as why the left can't engage, I don't know. The left are bad people.
vote conservative.
So good. So you agree? You're happy that you're not going to be on this side ever again.
I'll be on whatever side they need me, for content.
I will give you credit for taking on a stance outside of your outside of your worldview. You know what I mean? Because
it's still going to get better. Like if I can't argue if I can argue the left's arguments better than they can, or like take arguments that they should be using and argue them, then when I argue them on these panels, fuck them, I'm going to beat them because I know this shit better than they do.
I think that's fair.
That's what makes me wonder about. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I'm so sorry.
No, go ahead.
I'm like, no, I was just saying, like, that's the thing with like political stuff. I'm like, I would consider myself like a centrist up until we started engaging with stuff, but when it actually pushed on stuff, I feel like the left is way harder to defend on stuff because it is nuanced. I think most things in life are nuanced, but it's like that's not how a debate works, you know.
I do also think Canadian argue American. Sorry, Sarah.
No, that's okay.
Stuff. So
I think that battling the left, it is a uphill battle because most people always take it to that moral grounding, and it makes it even harder to defend because you don't have the stance that the right would have essentially for the moral grounding. And if everything, and I told you all backstage too, will end up in Christian morality, guarantee we're going there. And where did it go? Right. So because that always comes down to the root.
I think that I mean, I can't speak for sure, but I think the fact that like I said, I have a religious background kind of thing. Right. And I think maybe that's part of the reason why we didn't go to that, because I feel like that would have played to my strength, or maybe that was intentional on their side. However, I do think what you said was something interesting. I just talked about this on my channel not too long ago, is the rise of like the moral left. Right. And this is the first time, at least in my lifetime, where I can think of a case where the left is sitting here moral frogging to the conservative, like, you're bad, here's our moral logic. And it's very interesting to see the dichotomy between that and the Christian right, who's usually had the monopoly on the moral like high ground in debate spheres, in growing up at least. I don't know. I find this is a new development. It's kind of interesting to me.
Yeah, no, I'm agreeable. Along with the here's a beer for Sarah. I appreciate that. And following up says, why can't the chat feel the goal without making the tomato ask? Take control of the night, boys. Yes, patriarchy. Use the force doctrine to promote the grift doctrine, ladies and gentlemen. Hall also follows up to say positive not equals good. Seriously, also the individual states agreed that there wasn't a national religion, that the federal could tell a state not to have theirs, and they did. Anyone feel like...
The individual states agreed that there wasn't a national religion. The Fed could tell a state not to have theirs, and they did. So you're saying that the freedom, or like the separation of state, like, is that the Fed could tell a state not to have theirs, and they did? So certain, like, the federal government can tell like individual states to practice Muslim or to be Muslim or whatever. I don't know. Like, but that makes no sense to me.
Well, the first part of his argument was directed when we were trying to, because the whole debate came about, like, why are we like egging on this point about like, what's your moral evaluation? Like, where do you object? Like, where do you get your objective morality from? Mm-hmm. And well, this isn't a debate over this. This is a debate about whether or not masculinity is a positive force in politics. And I was like, well, positive implies good, right? So this is what his comments about. It's like, okay, how does it not equal good? Like, how is this not a morality debate in some sense? So that's where he's getting that component from. The other one, I'm Canadian. I will use the Canadian.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I understood the beginning. I'm just that N confuses me.
Yeah, so it's L being Canadian. Like, come on, I'm just...
Oh.
That's worse than being a woman.
Do you get the last part?
You got a double out. No, I'm just kidding.
No, it's all jokes. You know, it's like, yeah, I get it. It's all good.
What is I don't know.
Do you think that the federal can tell a state to not have theirs, and they did? That doesn't make any sense.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's
the federal government can't tell Massachusetts to be Christian.
Well, yeah, absolutely. There's definitely a separation of, church and state. I mean, originally though, if we really look at history, the reason they did that is to keep state out of the religion, right? Not to keep the religion out of the state, right? That's a big thing that I think that, when people talk about church and state. However, we've developed over time this culture of separation. I think that is important because the culture in America has become somewhat of a melting pot. Like the Catholics and the Orthodox are not the same. The Baptists and the Catholics aren't the same. The Mormons, and like they all contribute differently. I think there is some strength to like collectivism in some regards, but it has to be compatible like collectivism. There's definitely cultures that don't mesh well, I think is a way I would argue that.
Fair enough. BB says spurt in comfort packing bags for OS. Can't say more. I'm AFK for a while. Take care of each other. Chat is later. I'm not sure what that means.
Thank you for the $10, BB.
Yeah, I like BB. BB comes in often and throws stuff in, but I'm not sure what that's for. TD says, DoorDash some vodka, Sarah. That would have been nice. Hall says, second for vodka delivery, Sarah. And follows up, I got you halfway to this goal, chat. Pick it up. And BB says, based box when you are more animated and talk faster than a talk short. Watch the bird hands in action. I know pointing out no hanging fruit, no low hanging fruit. BB out. See you later, BB. Random guy says both opponents completely lose when they can't answer the breakfast question.
I answered it. I said I'd feel like I feel right now because I didn't have breakfast this morning. I would feel probably that way tomorrow if I didn't have breakfast.
Fair enough. And then Oma John says Base was letting himself get mad because he was trying to focus on logic and he was arguing with a guy who isn't logical. Find your calm, bro. Fun though. Woosah.
Actually, a good tip, Oma.
And last one, last two. K2 keep on trucking says, Sarah, you should have brought out the belt fallacy for this debate. Damn, lunchtime. Yeah, I like to threaten throwing my shoe at people quite often.
I like the spanking more though.
Yeah, I'll spank your little.
Good chocolate took me back to my childhood.
And of course, Finkel sending out 5 Raging Tomato gifted memberships. Is everyone ready for us to have fun with our open panel friends?
Fuck yeah! Woo! Let's go! Let's fucking go!
Blue break, but I'll be back after.
Yeah, no, feel free to step away. We got a little short little intro video, and then we're gonna bring the panel on, and we're gonna be kicking ass from here.
Of course.
All right, here we go. All right. Let's see. We got Paige Tweaker, Admiral Gibbs. Okay, fair enough. Okay, everybody is on panel. Of course, camming up gets you priority to the panel way faster than all of you avatar modes in the back. All right. So as we all know, we like to play the game. We like to play the boot game. So anyone on the bottom half of the panel is bootable, except I'm going to make one caveat for the evening because our dear lovely Duck was originally supposed to make this debate this evening and was filled in by Gibbs. So I'm going to give Duck a solid 30 minutes of unbootability. Okay. So I'm going to set a timer. And once that 30 minutes goes off, then I'll let the chat know because I know you guys like to boot him first thing, but we're going to give him at least 30 solid minutes on panel to let him do his thing. With that being said, you also are very familiar with my rules. You're interrupting, acting like assholes, being tards, whatever is very upsetting to me. And I've already had a long 2.5 hours. So if you could please be mindful of that, I'd greatly appreciate it. And also, final statement, I have started the Gauntlet. The Gauntlet channel is up and launching. I'm going to start dropping the link in the chat. We're going to start maneuvering over to the Gauntlet, and Tomato side will shut down. So if you want to start moving now or catch the raid, that's fine. Okay. All right. Whoever wants to fire first, go ahead.
So this is a pretty liberal panel. Masculinity. This is a pretty liberal panel, but I wanted to offer a sort of factual point. Hopefully this is a little based. It's a little bit sort of, it defines for most of us sort of what the people on the left and center sort of think of masculinity. And so research in the 1960s actually proved that when you talk to men that self-reported about masculinity, they were less competent at performing day-to-day tasks. One example is, so you picture you're a dude in the 1960s, everything's booming, and all of a sudden your wife dies, so you're a widower. And masculine men at this time failed to take care of their wives. They failed to plan. And these were guys that said, my most important values are work. My most important values are being that sort of, masculine patriarch. So doesn't this undermine masculinity in the sense of politics that if I can't even take care of my fucking wife, how could I be a leader? And this just happens when I say I'm a masculine guy. Is that right?
No, that's 100% right. I think that's an interesting little observation. I think that's a primary way to like win at. I think that's probably like if I was playing devil's advocate on that front, I'd be like, okay, well, yeah, this one study that you cited, while it's a good thing, that's like what you want to do when you're arguing your claim. It's like, I'm sure we could like, I feel like that's an easily counterable claim would be my rebuttal, I guess. Not even rebuttal.
But how though?
I'm on your side.
Yeah,
I'm on your side.
Kel, but honestly, how do you refute that? If the people that define themselves as masculine end up actually they're the ones that end up committing intimate partner violence, especially when they can't fulfill their masculine role in society. This is scientific. They don't take care of their wives. They report lower self-esteem at certain times. It's almost like a mental illness. And so how do you actually refute this point? This is about science.
How does that like pertain to politics though? Like partner violence, you could argue, okay, well maybe they're better conquerors or like whatever. Like there's so many like little tiny rabbit holes.
It didn't though, right? That the prompt was masculinity is a positive force for politics. How does it even relate to politics in the first place? I could say unicorns are a positive force for politics. Do you Yeah. So unicorns are a positive force for politics. What does a unicorn have to do with politics? Obviously it's silly. So masculinity, it's why is it not the same thing as saying unicorns?
Well, that's exactly what I was saying. That's what I was trying to point out.
There was an obvious point that everybody didn't really touch on, right? Like, what is politics? Politics is the art of compromise. Do you guys consider masculinity to be more compromising or less compromising than femininity?
Depends on the situation. I think in a lot of ways you could easily say that masculinity is much more conducive to that kind of problem solving and like getting to a solution, whereas the feminine would be more about everybody's feelings and stuff like that. Speaking broadly, of course. So it depends.
You wouldn't think that people who are caring about people's feelings more than others wouldn't be the ones who care more about compromising?
But what makes that inherently?
That's why I said it depends. It depends on the issue. What
makes that inherently female or male? I think we're missing the point because it's like, fortitude, strength, blah, blah. Okay, yes, okay, there's exceptions to everything. It's like, what makes that intrinsically masculine? I still have not gotten like a definition of it. I feel like Sarah, do you think I was wrong on that one? Like,
say it again.
I feel like I still have not gotten like a solid definition of masculinity. I feel like I've gotten like the pillars, the descriptors, like.
So it's the cultural ideal that exists within the gender, in the normative gender.
I was going to say, can we define it, in such a way where people are agreeable to the definition? So in that instance, what I would have done was try to find an agreement between the two of you of where masculinity is defined that you can agree on that point. Because if you can't agree on what the word masculinity means, then everything else gets squashed.
Yeah.
Well, who was the guy that was just talking? I apologize. I missed your name.
That was me, Effigy.
Effigy. So you actually nailed something really key right there. What did you just say? It's the cultural context of what masculinity is, right? Like that's a key point that both Kel and I argued.
It's the cultural ideal specifically. That's usually what controls like the core idea of what masculine is as a culture. There's many nebulous ideas of masculinity orbiting around it. But that cultural ideal within that culture is usually what defines it in that place.
Right. Yeah. And politics. Yeah. I agree with the cultural aspect. That's kind of the point I was making. I feel like.
Yeah, it's a construct.
So
like being a male is objective, but the masculinity you put on top of it is a construct that can change depending on your culture.
He's got it.
Yeah, but it doesn't. But it also doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
No. Donald Trump said it. Wait, 1 second, Based. Listen, let me talk. So, Donald Trump said over 80 times. Donald Trump said over 80 times Kamala was a horrible woman. This isn't changing what the normative conception of masculinity or femininity is. This is just leveraging bias against women. And people think Donald Trump is like the Don, right? He's Trump the Don, and so. kind of putting those ideas together, it's like, well, masculinity might be a dangerous construct. It also might just be this sort of backstop where, people try to get away with political tomfoolery because it's like, well, I don't see an overwhelming reason why I wouldn't do this.
So this gets in a really interesting conversation that a lot of people are going to roll their eyes on, but no one, and someone's brought this up. I think it was Kel who brought this up. None of these traits are specific only to one sex.
Yes.
These traits are what these specific genders are identifying with. They're defining what these things are, even though it's not biologically specific to them. I mean, there's high correlation that you could say that the biology definitely informs. Like, you can't get away from that. I'll agree with a lot of people on the other side on that one. But
I would agree that
only intrinsic to them, and they're choosing to make
way more than the culture. The virtues and the traits define them way more than the culture. The culture takes those traits and applies them to their own culture.
Where do the virtues come from?
I hear you, and I would agree with that.
Their actual masculinity, their biology, their testosterone, their nature. And again, when you actually talk about what men are supposed to do in society, it's based on ontology.
Can you relate virtue to testosterone for me really quickly?
I'm not talking to you.
Well, just
not one time in my. I'm not. Never. Never.
Can you just clarify that for me really quick?
That's really bad. Corinth, go fuck yourself. I'm never talking to you.
Okay,
it's really bad faith.
Listen. I'm like, thank you. I should have written it down. This is my fault. I learned now on these panels. I'm like, I'm gonna remember my train of thought. I'm like, listen. I'm so frustrated. I don't remember what I was gonna.
Well, I didn't get to catch the beginning of the debate. So can someone recap just really quickly why masculinity would not be good for politics?
Well, that's not the claim. It's a.
She'll be back in about 15 seconds.
Yeah. There are clear reasons. You can look at someone like George W. Bush, a son of Texas, his brother, his father, both huge politicians,
so can someone explain
very famous people. And, we saw him lose control of the narrative. He didn't explain what the Taliban or Mujahideen actually is, what it means. He didn't explain clearly why we need a war in Iraq. And we see 20 years later that, there is mass famine, starvation, stuff we still don't talk about, possibly war crimes, and really expensive 20-year escapade. Afghanistan's back in the Taliban now. And so if people trusted George Bush because he was a man, they voted for him because he was a man, if they thought that he had that sort of swagger about him, even if it was implicit, that's really dangerous. It's something we should talk about.
What I was going to say is, and I think there is merit to what you're saying, 100%, Doug. What I was going to say is I think you're right. I think you're right in your assertion that what we're talking about is that, masculinity, what we're defining it as, can be very culturally polluted. And that was, I think that's why I felt so frustrated, because I feel like you felt the same way, that we were making your argument for you. And I felt the same way, where it's like we're looking at two sides of the same coin, but it's like we both have, some minor, sub-definition that's going to, disqualify, various arguments or whatever. But at the end of the day, yes, there are certain characteristics that are inherently masculine. I just felt like you guys were over conflating what those were. So I wouldn't say that. No, I wouldn't say that fortitude. You just throw in a lot of adjectives that I'm like, well, wait a second. I wouldn't agree that that's inherently masculine. If we're talking about what is inherently masculine, what adjectives I would qualify that as exclusively, it would be literally having fucking balls, a ton,
When you say exclusively, you're creating a monolith. I never created a monolith. We're speaking in generalities, which we do in almost every instance in this planet, in everything. So stop. When I gave you multiple different definitions, I actually had 3. I have them on my screen. 3 different definitions that I gave you of masculinity. And guess what? You confirmed all 3 of them and gave positive examples of how they benefit society through politics. And when we tried to talk about that, all you wanted to do was say, oh, well, bad this and bad that. So we go into morality. And
so what you're saying is we control the debate.
No, we tried to, and then Sarah let you control it again.
Thank you.
I'll
take that point.
Control of it the whole time, and then Sarah was just like, oh, wait, they're on this side. It's like, yeah, no, we flipped them. That's how that worked.
Hold on.
Why I asked Sarah.
Hold on. Let me read a few super chats, and for everyone watching on the tomato side, start moving over to the gauntlet. Now I'm going to drop the link one more time, and then I'm closing out tomato. So you can either catch the raid or hit the link and go over. All right. Tomato side is officially